All in favor of the agenda, please say aye. Students.
Board members?
Aye. That's 2050. And the first item on our agenda is 0810 instructional program, but I'm going to hand it over to Fred first so he can just do a quick introduction.
Yes, so later on in the agenda on the consent, you'll see approving our new student board rep. And so I want to ask Brody to come on up. This is Brody Newcomer. Come on up here. So I'm going to say a few things, have our student reps, and then Jody, if you want to, as well, Director Lee. But pleased to have our newest board rep coming forward. He served on the Superintendent Student Advisory and then served out his term. Had to take a year off because of term limits, and but was a wonderful contributor. And I think his recognition, his presence, the way that I think that he's seen in so many different avenues around the school is going to make him just such a great addition to the board for next year. And so it's always, sad to see one go, and then we get to see Lucy move up, and then we're going to get to see Brody slide over. So let me turn it over, Director Lee. You want to just talk about we had a number of great candidates.
We did. We had some fantastic candidates, several of which made it to the interview. I think maybe like 10, many made it to the interview round. But I was just going to say that Brody really stood out. Like, he showed a clear commitment and passion for the possibility of having the role. He was enthusiastic, and he seemed to have a strong understanding of what it would entail. And what frankly, enormous time commitment is, and seemed up for the job and had sort of cleared the decks to make way for it. We were all very impressed in the room, and we had down to several finalists, and we took a blind vote, and he was the unanimous choice. So it was made it very easy when we all voted the same way with the first round, and we're thrilled to have you on board.
Thank you so much. Students.
Yeah, just super excited to be working with you next year. I think, yeah, as Jody said, you were really the clear standout candidate. Just really impressed us all in the interview. Very confident and just great for the role. I think as Jody said, yeah, it definitely was that clear understanding of the role, the time commitment, and really feeling like you were going to put your best foot forward and really put the work into the role, which is really an important part of it. So super excited for next year. It'll be great.
Yes, and Brody, your energy is amazing. And throughout leadership and all the other activities that you do, we clearly see that not only do you have the breadth, you do have the depth, and you have the passion and enthusiasm, which is exactly what this student rep needs. So yeah, I'm excited for you to take one of these spots.
So Brody, if you could say a few words if you'd like to, and then any questions from the board or comments too. So turn it over to you.
I think I'm just really excited, possibly more excited than any of you all are. I'm really excited to work with you, Lucy. Really sad I'm not going to get to work with you, Ava. You guys are both really impressive to watch. I know that I watched a few meetings before this to study up and stuff, and I came to a meeting. It was just really impressive to watch how the whole board functions, but also how the student reps function. And I really realized that I would need to step up to take this role, and that was something that I had to kind of get ready to do. But I think I am ready to do it. I'm really excited.
And you have a couple people in the audience who are some fan club members there. You want to introduce them?
Yeah, it's my mom and my dad, and my grandma's here too. They're all almost as excited as I am.
That's awesome. Other thoughts or things?
Excited to see, I've watched you as a little brother for a bunch of years now, and excited to see, and then I've seen you out in the community participating, and when I heard the news, it was a natural fit. So I'm super excited to get to work with you as a young person and not as a little brother.
I am excited to have you on board, and I look forward to hearing your voice and the advice that you will bring to the board. I think that the student perspective is one of the most important roles of this board, and I appreciate that you are willing to step in It's not an easy commitment because you have seen how long the meetings go, but I really appreciate that you are willing to bring all the students in the district voice to our meeting.
I probably know and have seen the least of you of everybody, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you. And, you know, when I started going to board meetings in 2019, when I started thinking about running for board, there were 2 student board reps at the time. And I thought, oh, how nice that they allow students onto the board to sit up here on the dais. So they would just like give a little report, you know, every couple of weeks. And that was it. And I was like, it's amazing that the students are so involved. And like every year since then, the students have done more and been more involved and had more of an impact on the board. And every year I think, well, that has maxed it out. There is not possibly any more that students could get involved with on the board. And now just like this meeting, I was able to be like, hey, we have this policy we were working on and like, it didn't quite work out for us, but maybe you can do something with it for your, you know, student board rep policy and just hand it off and like, it got done, you know, like it's, yeah. So I look forward to seeing what the next amazing thing is that you do that like expands my brain even more on what students can do on boards. So yeah, welcome and congrats.
Please join me. Welcome. We would like to get a photo, and so we'll put the student board reps behind the board, and then you two can stand on both sides of them so we can get a picture. So come on back.
Behind Director Glow, it's perfect, so that we're all symmetrical. Okay. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
All right. These are on the ground. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So Brody will be sworn in at the first meeting in September.
And April will zoom in from Chicago, I guess.
Right.
Thanks for coming, everyone. So then,
We did.
OE10 instructional program.
Great. I'm going to bring up our teams who are here to present on OE10. So if you want to come on up, and we're going to bring Andrews in, who is at the airport right now, getting ready to fly out. But before he could go, we put him kind of towards the top of the agenda. Part of OE10 that you ask in there, there are 2 components to it. The first component is what kinds of reviews and what kinds of projects have we really been working on? And the 2 that you've expressed as a board that you wanted to learn more about are both the AI work that the district has done, as well as what we've been doing for that post-secondary preparation. And so those are 2 of the focal points. And then the third one is part of the Perkins grant every year is making sure we're keeping the board up to speed on what's happening in college and career readiness. So we're going to begin with the AI component and work. I would say that all of these are very much works in progress. Sometimes we bring you more of final summaries about what's been done, but I would say all of these are evolving constantly. But hopefully they provide you with some perspective there. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrews to begin our UI presentation.
Fred, would this be a good time to talk about the communication update real quick as well?
Yes, actually, would you start off with that? Because that will set us up for our June 16th study session. So yes, start with that in terms of some communication.
Perfect. So this is just a quick update to the board. You know, Ian, Henry, Fred, and I continue to review the communication plan, you know, that Fred put in place as he took the superintendent's position. And we're constantly looking at ways to improve our overall communication to families and remove barriers as we think about our 4 Bs. And so our district is currently in the process of reviewing a few communication applications that will just better support our families, provide enhanced translation services. And we're hoping to be able to implement that in the fall as a replacement to School Messenger. We've used School Messenger for several years, and we're hoping that this will be able to improve on that communication by providing additional translation capabilities, as well as potentially maybe even the opportunity for two-way communication. That's something that we've talked about. So more info to come on that, but I just wanted to provide a quick update before we started jumping into the AI piece of our presentation.
I have a quick question, and I don't know if it's possible or not. It's a little bit tough for me to understand some of the things. Is it possible to turn on captions or?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, can we do that? And then maybe volume up just a
Yeah,
second.
maybe that's. Thank you.
I'll do my best to enunciate and also speak up as well. I apologize. I'm in a very loud airport.
Yeah.
The owl makes an echo. Yes.
All right. So as we talk about, as Fred mentioned, we've been doing this is ongoing work that actually started roughly about 2 years ago, where we started a work group really focusing on how we want to utilize AI within our schools to help improve the educational experience and provide students with those 21st century skills. And so, through that process, through guidance from OSPI, external resources, staff, families, our students, our community, we created a set of 5 values that we identified in terms of what we value and how our schools will implement AI and introduce it to our students. And so the 5 core values that I'm going to talk about here through this presentation are transparency, safety, and accountability, training and education, professional development, inclusive and equitable learning settings, continuing to encourage personalization and creativity, and then, of course, academic integrity. And so in this presentation, you'll see, resources under each one of these areas, and I'll some of things that I really, wanted to point out as I go through this presentation. And then there'll be some opportunities for you to ask questions. But if I'm presenting on anything and you have a question, please feel free to ask during the presentation. That's totally fine. As we start thinking about our transparency, safety, and accountability.
Dreams, just quickly, as you're going through, just slow down a smidge because it will help the pronunciation too. Just slow down just a smidge.
No worries. Okay, appreciate that. So as we think about our transparency, safety, and accountability, some of the big items that came up in our work group discussions were really around student privacy, transparency. Examples of some of the considerations that we took as part of this process are whether any of the student inputs are used to build on large learning models, and whether any of our data would be used externally with other users of that tool, trying to make sure that we keep it closed within our system. We also wanted to ensure that we maintained ownership of all the data, and that we limited third-party access to any of the data that we provide to any of the tools that we utilize. We also wanted to ensure that our tools would be able to be utilized with our students. And if you look at the privacy policies of many of the tools that are currently out there in the marketplace, many of them are not able to be used with students or with children 18 and under. Some have lowered that to 13 and under. But we wanted to make sure that we found tools that would be able to be utilized across all of our classrooms, all the way from our youngest students up. And then, of course, we wanted to give our staff the ability to monitor as well as guide how our students utilize these tools, and really guide that instruction to ensure that they learn how to use AI appropriately. As I go through here, you'll notice on this page, we do have links to some of the federal policies that we need to comply with, both the FERPA and the COPA and the SIPA. As we think about student privacy, we're really focusing a lot on the FERPA and the COPA, but I did wanted to provide links to all 3 of those policies. And then as we think about, additional policies that we have for our schools, OSPI does not actually recommend that districts implement a separate artificial intelligence or AI policy. And really what their recommendation is that we incorporate appropriate use of AI in our existing policies. And so as you think about our 2022 policy, which is our responsible use policy, we've updated our responsible use policies to include examples of how AI could be used inappropriately, and set those expectations to try and ensure that our students are utilizing it properly. Of course, we've also updated our harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy. Those policies are also included in our student handbooks and provided to our families at the beginning of the school year. The other thing that we've done in terms of transparency and accountability is at the beginning of the school year, rather than just including these forms and these policies in the RSVP process, when parents are being sent a lot of information, we sent separate notices that really talked about their rights as parents in terms of student privacy, how how their students might be utilizing technology in their classroom, as well as information on how they might want to opt out. And all of that information is on our website that I'll highlight, that I'll talk about here as well. We'll come to this, but I did want to mention that this is all listed on our website as well. And we were doing individual notices to our families at the beginning of the school year. As we talk about our professional development, AI or artificial intelligence is not necessarily new. We have had a lot of tools that use large amounts of data to be able to do data processing. What we're seeing a large growth in is that generative AI piece. And so as we started, exploring this work group process, we wanted to ensure that we're also providing professional development and training to our teachers to help ensure that, one, they fully understand the tools and are comfortable utilizing them, but can also work with students directly to explain how and when to use those tools, when it's appropriate, and really guide them through that instruction. Our instructional tech day, and I'm going to click on some of these links and walk you through this, because some of the information is just amazing. So bear with me as I switch through some tabs. I am going to show you a website here around our instructional tech day. This is from the beginning of this school year. Our instructional tech coaches host a full day of professional development. And it truly is a technology conference that we host in schools for all of our teachers. This year's theme was the Eras Tour. And so we try to make it really engaging for our staff and include them. Many of our staff will actually lead sessions themselves. And so they're learning from their peers as opposed to learning from presenters and external vendors, and really building that leadership capacity within our own staff. And as you see here, you can see a schedule of, kind of what the day looks like, and then a list of workshops. And I'll click here on the session descriptions, just to give you an idea of the amount of workshops that we offer. We offered roughly about 50 workshops, I believe, at this event. Again, many of them are led by teachers in the buildings. So we can really develop that peer mentorship through this process. And then we also provide them with a keynote at that instructional tech day as well. And this year's keynote really was focused around the evolution of technology through the various eras, all the way from, starting with early civilization and how technology grew, all the way to what we're seeing now in our schools. And Superintendent Rundle was instrumental in helping us lead that keynote, through that process. As I switch back to our AI document, other areas where we provide professional development for our teachers. Again, this is in August when we do this day. But a big shift that we did with our instructional tech coaches is really this focus on technology learning cycles. So rather than this, sit and get in a presentation or in a keynote, what the technology learning cycles provide is just that unique one-to-one catered experience where teachers get to work with our coaches directly to identify a goal, receive feedback, they receive direct support. Our instructional tech coaches will work shoulder to shoulder with our teachers, help co-teach lessons, and then shift from them supporting them to actually just observing how the teacher has then implemented that tool and then continue to provide that feedback. And so you can see here in this image, it's really talking about that full learning cycle where they can go through the entire process of setting that goal, learning, implementing, and reflecting. And we can do that. We do that annually with every single one of our teachers. Here, I just wanted to highlight a few trends from some of our TLCs this year. Magic Student is a tool that we'll talk quite a bit about as we think about Magic School, but also Cami as a tool to help support those inclusive and equitable learning settings, and Securely to help us support some of our classroom management and monitoring tools were some of the areas that we saw a lot of teachers set goals around. And then I also wanted to include just some quotes from some of our teachers as they reflected on their TLCs and their cycles. And here you can see one teacher saying that they've gotten a lot better using the annotations feature to enhance classroom presentations, discussions, finding a meaningful way to assess students' understanding of content, using information to inform instruction. This quote's great right here. We wanted students to understand the ethics and implications tools to aid their learning and understanding rather than just do the work for them. And that's really what we're talking about with AI use, is still that human-centered aspect of AI use. It's not just putting in a prompt and copying and pasting that response. As we also survey our staff as part of our technology learning cycles. And so here's just a quick screenshot from one of those questions where it really kind of talks about, our staff feeling like the learning that they're doing or the professional development they're receiving is really helping to support their students by removing, barriers or, in this case, in that belief piece, right? Believing in the limitless potential of the students. We had some great responses there. So really aligning our technology integration and our professional development back to our district improvement plan and our district goals. Right. In addition, our staff attend a variety of conferences, including NCCE, the AI Innovation Summit. We host open labs, and this is from our elementaries. They host weekly 30-minute workshops, in our schools. We also, our team sends out Tech Tip Tuesdays and Tech Quick Lights. And so here's two examples of, some of those messages that go out. Really, in addition to just reminding staff of what tools are available for them, raising that awareness, but then also providing them some quick instruction on ways that they can implement these tools to help improve their instruction and their delivery. So here's, a tech tip on Nearpod, and then a similar one on PeriodPod in here. And again, these are just two examples, and these tech tips go out throughout the entire year. And then in addition to professional development that we provide to our certificate staff, we also have 26 hours of technology training that are available to our classified staff annually. And we have now shifted that to 2 half days where we do direct instruction. So rather than trying to provide them with asynchronous resources, we bring them in the building and give them that opportunity to do, whole group sessions, small group work, really focusing on the same instructional practices that we're implementing in our classroom, implementing those same practices in our professional development as well. And this year, our whole group sessions were really focused on reinforcing our district values and making sure that our staff understand the work that was done there and those values that are guiding how we utilize AI in our classrooms. And then also giving that opportunity to go into the tools themselves, explore and just kind of experience what tools capabilities are and how they might help them as they're working with students on, reading assessments, thinking about text leveling, or other things to help make that content more accessible for our students. As I go down to inclusive and equitable learning settings, we want to provide some examples of how our students are accessing our AI tools, or our staff are accessing AI tools to help support our students. I talked a little bit about text leveling. So we have teachers using Leveler as one example. There's also a text leveler within Magic School that I'll talk a little bit about. This area right here I thought was really great. In addition to translation services that our tools can provide, or the text leveling services that our tools can provide, we've really talked about how access to some AI tools might make the content more accessible for a larger scale of students. And so this is an example where in our elementary schools, our students were asked to research a topic. So the impacts of technology in society. And really what we found through that process is the resources that they were coming across were a little bit difficult for them to understand. And so we were able to use a tool within Magic School to summarize those resources for our students, do the text leveling so it's more understandable, but then also provide them with key points and bulleted lists to help them with their comprehension so that they can go through and create that presentation. Our special services teachers have been utilizing it to help track IEP goals and writing goals. And then, of course, inside Magic School, there are also suggestions that help with behavior supports and those processes. And then, as I think about how our staff have utilized AI as well, we've been using Notebook LM, which is a Google tool. to help us summarize a variety of different resources. And so whether that's our contracts and updates to contracts and making sure that staff understand, implications of any of the MOUs or things that are happening, we've been using that tool. And then our tech team directly has been utilizing ChatGPT just in a lot of our automations. So Nate, who's there covering for me for the board meeting, has been using ChatGPT and has automated a number of our processes, including some of our rostering applications. And so we've been utilizing these tools to help improve the technology tools as well as the student experience across our classrooms. As I get down into encouraging personalization and creativity, I do want to highlight a particular project that was at Crest, that happened at Crest, that I'll talk about here. But before I do that, I wanted to show a few analytics from Magic School. With Magic School, again, as we talk about the student privacy and transparency piece, Magic School was a tool that we reviewed as a instructional tech team to ensure that it aligns with our privacy policies, as well as being able to be used by our students in all of our grade levels, not just those that are 13 and above. And so within Magic School, I'll just show briefly just some quick statistics. This is across this year. So you can see the time frame here from August 1st, because I wanted to include that instructional tech day. But across our staff, we've had 448 unique users log in and utilize Magic School. This gives you some idea of the timing for when that happens. You can see around March. I think this might be some, as part of some of the report cards, you'll see some of that tools there. But of those 448 users, we've had almost 16,000, over 16,000 generations. And that's actual, prompt responses there. And then as I look at the tools that our teachers have utilized, you can see here, Raina is the AI assistant. And so similar to ChatGPT, it's that ability to put in a prompt and receive a generation back. But our teachers are actually also utilizing it for writing feedback to help provide more feedback to our students around their writing and their instruction. The text rewriter will help summarize, text to make it a little bit more understandable, utilizing it to develop professional emails, report card comments, other things like that. And then as I shift over to our student analytics, what you'll see here is just the total number of student sessions. So we've had almost 9,000 student sessions. And what's really great about Magic School as a tool is teachers can decide when students have access to the school. So our students cannot log in to Magic Student directly. A teacher has to create a room, and you can see here there's 165 rooms that are listed in here. And then that room comes with a unique code. And so when a student wants to utilize the tool, they have to put in that unique code in order to access the tool. And then the teacher can decide which AI tools are available to the students as they go through that process. But the other thing that's great about that is in that within that room, the teacher can actually see all of the prompts the students have entered. They can see if they're using the tool inappropriately. They can see the response from the AI assistant. And so they have that oversight and that monitoring to be able to see how their students are utilizing it, whether it truly is just a copy and paste or whether they're utilizing it in a meaningful way to help guide the instruction. As I come down to this screenshot, this just shows some statistics on how students have utilized it. You can see the top tool here is around QuizMe, which you can actually put in, content, and it will generate flashcards and ask you informational questions from that, and gives that student the opportunity to practice, practice and see where they're comprehending the content. Definitely utilized a lot for writing feedback. And then the research assistant, which is something I spoke about earlier, just being able to utilize that to summarize a variety of different texts and make those more accessible for our students. You can see there is a Raina for students as well, a chatbot there, and then some custom chatbots. It didn't show up on this list, but one thing that's really cool is it has a chatbot where you can actually ask it to be a historical figure. And so when you interact with the chatbot, it will respond as though it's a historical figure. So if you think about, George Washington, for example, you can set the prompt so that the chatbot is responding as if it's George Washington. And then our students can have conversations with some of those historical figures based on resources that our teachers select. I did want to highlight a project at our high school through the press block. So Mr. Rigby and Ms. Thompson actually engaged in a project that they looped me into, really exploring the ethics of AI and helping our students understand how to utilize those tools. And so it was a project-based learning project for them. And so really they were tasked with answering three essential questions, exploring the ethics of using AI in K-12 education, seeing how students can be more involved in that in those discussions and the decision making in the use of AI, and then also exploring the models to see which ones might fit educational uses better than others. For any of you who've used AI tools, the responses are not always the same between them, and some of them have very differing functionality or are tailored to a very specific use cases. And so our students got a chance to explore a variety of different AI tools to really kind of get a sense of what would work best for education, but still provide that ethical experience. And so, as I mentioned here, they were going to examine all of these tools, capabilities, think about the ethical considerations, and then for sources, they were going to utilize a variety of different sources, as well as exploring the AI tools directly in there. And one of the things that you saw, because we actually had a group of students come to one of our school boards and do a presentation, the expectation is from this, from the learning and the exploration that they did, they would either have to provide a school board presentation, write an opinion article, create a podcast. They could potentially also meet with our principals cabinet or other government officials. And so there was an outcome of it where they were meant to share what they learned back to a larger group. And then I did grab some quotes from just a couple of our students. So these are two students that participated in the project. And I just sort of asked them what their takeaway was from going through that project. And so one of them, just shared that it was a great tool for helping you study and research. And he learned, they learned that it wasn't just necessarily an answer sheet or that tool that's just going to give you a response that you can copy and paste. And then another student shared that it allowed students to explore AI and how important that is to their education, ensuring that they're prepared for those next level careers, right? So allowing students to explore AI is key to keeping us on the cutting edge of schooling, because not only are we allowing them to learn the benefits naturally, but it also allows them to see the harmful effects that AI has in the world. Again, some of these students focused on even some of the ecological impacts of AI in terms of the amount of carbon emissions around that. And so I actually met with one of the students over at Crest, and we looked at what the educational, or not the education, the environmental impacts are of some of these tools, and we tried to gather some statistics for the students to be able to explore, what environmental costs might be associated with that project. And then lastly, our group talked about academic integrity. And again, with AI, cheating and using, plagiarism was something that was around well before AI. It has just become much more part of the conversation as these tools are generating content for our students, right? And so they have the ability to put in information or put in a rubric or put in a prompt, and it will generate a response that could be used for plagiarism. And so we provide our teachers with a variety of tools to kind of focus on that academic integrity. Again, teaching them when it's appropriate to use those tools. OSPI shared this scaffolding scale, and give me 1 second, I'm going to share this over, where our teachers are able to use this scale to try and explain when it's okay to use AI and to what degree it's okay to use AI in their lessons, and whether that's a level 1 assignment where they're, the expectation is that you're not using AI assistant, all the way up to level 5, where it's okay to have AI be a complete co-creator, right? But at the same time, it's still that human empowerment, where as humans, we provide the prompt, we review the responses, and then we adapt that response to fit our own voice and what we want to share. But then also making sure that we use our critical thinking to verify the response that we're receiving and making sure that it aligns with what we're expecting. If the AI is not hallucinating. In that sense. Give me 1 second. We also have updated our citation guide. So over here, Mr. Healy at our high school provides our students with a citation guide. And one of the things that we talk about is, using the response from AI directly is unequivocally plagiarism. And so we want to make sure that if you are utilizing AI to help you in your assignments, that you are properly referencing how you use the tool, what those prompts were, but then also making sure that it's not just a copy and paste and you're including your own voice and customizing that response as well. Finally, finally, here in this document, at the very bottom, I did want to link back to our website around our AI values. And so on this link, it will take you directly to our, bear with me. I'll update that link because it didn't go to the page that I wanted it to. But here we go. So this is the website that we created from the work group that, again, just talks about these 5 values and then provides additional information around each one of these. I can think about, our policies or, again, providing a sample classroom policy for our teachers to be able to implement AI in their classrooms. All right, I'll stop and answer any questions.
Thanks, Andres. We'll open it up to conversation.
I'd love to get a chance to see, like magic school or whatever. Yeah, like in person sometime, like at a study session or something. It's just to get like a more kind of like visceral sense of how it works. But I really appreciate the very, very thorough breakdown by topic, by sector, by level of school. I feel like I know a lot more now than I did. Dan.
Yeah, one comment, one question. So the comment is there's an executive order dated April 23rd, so just about a month ago, titled Advancing Artificial Intelligence Education for American Youth. It sounds like there will be a task force, a challenge, and various funding opportunities. The timeline looks like 90 days for a challenge, 120 for a task force, and I think 180 for funding opportunities. So assuming we're monitoring that, but it seems like it would be useful to sync the beginning of the school year, the end of the summer, to see what opportunities are available, since certainly AI is an area where the federal government, in contrast to other areas, has shown an appetite for investment versus cutting. So to see what opportunities, funding opportunities are there. And then the question is, are there any tools that would fall under the rubric of high impact tutoring, which, at least from my perspective, is perhaps the most promising uses of AI, individualized instruction, tool provided for students rather than tools just used for teachers in order to perhaps streamline some of their work.
Absolutely. So, one large area of AI usage just around writing feedback. And so as we think about that feedback loop for our teachers, previously it may have taken a little bit for our teachers to be able to read papers, provide those comments, and give those back to students. So one of the things that we want to do with our instructional technology tools is give students the opportunity to receive real-time feedback and comments. And you can see in some of our tools, writing feedback is a big piece of that. I should also mention how we're utilizing AI to help support some of our math programs. And there was a tool that was listed in the report that really gives students the opportunity to ask questions similar to what they would ask to a teacher, really kind of following that Socrative method. Not necessarily just being able to put in a question and then seeing the answer, but really being able to have the AI ask questions that help guide the student around solving those problems. And so we see the Conmigo as one of the tools. We did a lot of research on Conmigo and really focusing on that. And bear with me, I'm going to pull up the name of the tool just so I don't misspeak. But another example of a tool we're utilizing it for math in there. Did I put it in here? Let's move. I will find the name of the tool, but those are two definite areas where we are seeing it being utilized as that academic support and providing that additional tutoring or additional instruction.
I have seen that. The question will be, there's a few, starting maybe backwards, is, I know that we have a policy on how we're gonna teach our students on environmental impact, etc. And I'm wondering, from policy perspective, it's not only teaching them the responsible way on use, but also water usage, what is like generating images. Is the responsibility with our community and our neighboring states and even the A side of Washington that water is scarce. Like, the responsibility of using the prompt when it needs to be generated by a feedback, but not just to generate and create. So it's something related to not only a project, but a conscious effort to teach all the students the environmental impact of this. I think it's fantastic tool, but I think that we have to be conscious of how we use it. And this includes me because I use it a lot, but I also try to brainstorm as much as possible and at the same time use it when it's needed because I do understand the impact that it has. So that is one, but the other.
I think just quickly on that, and Andres, will you just mute when you are not talking? We're just hearing some from the background. Perfect, thank you. You know, I think those would be questions that I don't know if I have offhand, but you know, our ninth grade class that we've added around the impacts and climate change, and then I'm thinking of the ethics, the biotech and whatnot. So I don't know if it directly comes up as a one-to-one correlation of how is our use of AI having that ripple effect into the environment. It would be something that we could ask. It is an interesting.
And I also think that it has to be way beyond ninth grade. I think that if you're using this in K-12, the way you're using it in elementary, kids do need to understand the impact. So it is something that needs to be taught way early to understand the conservation of water comes not in high school, it comes really in preschool and elementary. I think that's when you actually understand a lot more on that.
And I think I can think about units in water conservation, especially in fourth grade, and some of their, but has it gotten to the point of looking at it through the lens of AI? I would have to dig deeper with our educators on that.
And this is so new, so I think that it's not necessarily that it has to be right now. There's those questions that we need to include. And also the other is like not only plagiarism will be, but also the copyright, making sure that we are not using anything that is copyright and the ramification that we will have as a district if something is used that is copyright. So how are we teaching the kids about that portion of AI? The other will be kind of on the other end, and will be more on the administration staff and being aware and being maybe proactive and just thinking on how are we using to support students, but if we will ever or not use any AI tool to support and help staff to evaluate students, either their work or flag behaviors to ensure that it is within your policies, that if this is human generated effort and not that it is a prompt that will, I don't know, you have to question those tools that are becoming available for teachers. Because I think that it's dangerous that the data is created by humans, but there's bias always in data. So yeah, at the same time, we cannot rely on that at all. So just flagging that is something that we will have to be conscious all the time. When we incorporate this question all the time for staff and students, right? So those are some of my comments. Let me see.
Andres, do you want to? I think, hold on one second, Andres.
Oh, sorry about that. I was muted. I'm back. Going back to Dan's question really quick, Flexi was the tool that I wanted to mention around math tutoring support as a tool that's being utilized in our school. And then Christina, you asked a little bit about image generation and those pieces. There are image generation tools in Adobe, in Canva, in Magic Student and Magic School that our students are utilizing. We do talk about how we utilize those tools. One of the things I called out was in our video production. Our video production students are utilizing AI to help generate some of those intros, transitions, and utilizing these tools to help. But as I mentioned, we also updated our harassment, intimidation, and bullying policies to make sure that we call out and highlight how these tools might be used in inappropriate ways, and make sure that we teach our students how to use these appropriately and not to use them in cyberbullying, and use them in ways that are digitally responsible in that sense. You also asked a little bit about the environmental impact, and Fred touched base on that. I did want to share as well that as part of that project from our CREST block, one of our students did focus on the environmental impacts of our usage of AI in the schools. And we looked at statistics from Magic School and Magic Student, those generations, to create some estimates on what that environmental impact would be. And so there's still more to be done there. And I do think, as Fred, mentioned a couple of different courses where we go through that. Those are conversations that we're having within our classrooms with our staff, including around the ethical implications of the copyright issue. Right, there was definitely a lot of concern, especially if you think about publications and literature that is being included in AI tools, in that process. There was a big conversation on how they didn't necessarily, these large companies, and I'm thinking of ChatGPT and Google, didn't get explicit permission from those authors to be able to pull in that content, right? And then those authors also aren't compensated for that. So absolutely, we had a lot of conversation around the ethical implications of AI in schools, as well as the bias that comes out, through utilizing those tools and really being able to teach.
Jody?
I'm also interested in this topic that Christina raised about the environmental impact. We're constantly hearing about like the water usage of even just one ChatGPT prompt. And then if we're doing it all over the school with all of our students, like how is that adding up? And I'm also very interested in addressing the intellectual theft aspect of using AI. If it is something, I do know that there's a massive theft of hundreds of thousands of authors' copyrighted completed works, like novels, to generate into the the AI project at like Facebook and Google. And then I'm also, if our lesson plans are being generated by AI, or these are assisted in generating an AI to sort of like come up with a quick lesson plan for whatever, that's taken from someone's lesson plan that was dumped into the ChatGPT model. This is something that remains a sharp concern to me. And I'm certainly looking forward to explaining it, to going through it a little bit more. And I do think that Maggie Ty's idea of having a little study session about this would be fantastic.
Oh, sorry, and Deborah and then Lucy.
Thank you for this information. It's I've been eagerly anticipating it for quite some time, and I know you guys have been working on it. I kind of equate this to, the introduction of social emotional learning, 10, 15, 20 years ago. in terms of that the intention is going to be that it's a part of our education environment and that, as we understand it more, I think we need to keep in mind with all the questions, how new this is. I mean, I don't have a clue. And so, I mean, I've done a few prompts on ChatGPT and that's kind of it. So I look forward to learning more. My main concerns are how it impacts our students. We are seeing story after story of more college students because that's what hits the news, but I'm sure it's happening for younger students in terms of plagiarism and the tools that pick that up are not particularly effective or accurate, I should say, and that students are having big time educational impacts, getting failing grades and courses when they're not acting inappropriate or doing things wrong. The sooner we could start that education as we come to understand it, and you guys understand it way better than I do, but I love that this group has started, that we're keeping an eye on it, and learning how to engage it. I understand the need to ask the questions for the broader global concerns. I think that's so far beyond what our group is focusing on our current students needs to be doing, that we're going to learn along with the global concerns and obviously can make adjustments all the way. And I'm confident that they will, or that our groups will make the adjustments along the way. But I want to see it, how it's impacting our students. And like I said, the ethical implications, I appreciate that the standard right now is the focusing on the plagiarism and citing. I think that's the most concrete information we can give our students until someone teaches me something else. And I agree in terms of learning more and the tools that our students are using and our staff are using. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. How can it help our students? I love when I hear, and I haven't used this, but I hear a lot how when there's a difficult, or students having a difficulty grasping a concept, they can say, teach me whatever, algebraic, whatever, at a 3rd grade level. And then they can master that, and then teach me at a 5th grade level, and then they can master that. And so those are the areas that I hope this group focuses on in terms of the impact on our students and our staff, but more so for our students. I appreciate how much training and professional development our staff is getting in the technology. I can't imagine being in this type of world right now and teaching our students and learning along the way to the degree that I'm sure it's drinking from a water hose and then having to use it and then teach it as well. So and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that the assumption is that it becomes embedded in our educational models and processes like social emotional learning has. We used to have separate lessons. Now it's a part of everything that we do. I anticipate that we're going to go in that direction. And I think, this is a great start. I know you guys have been working on it for a while, but this is a great start, and having these updates on a regular basis for how this industry topic is changing is going to be really helpful.
Thank you. I might have both of the students have interesting those things.
Yeah, actually, I had a similar question to what Deborah was talking about the AI detection software. I know some teachers use that, but I have had students get into trouble with saying you're using AI when they didn't. So I was wondering if there's any guidance given to our teachers around using that or not using that, because I know it is super fallible.
So on that website and in that piece when we talk about academic integrity, we do call that out directly, in that those AI detection tools are not, they've proven to be inaccurate. And so we don't want our teachers to be utilizing that as the only source of identifying whether our students were plagiarizing, right? There should be more to it than just we ran it through no reading or some other tool and it indicated that it was 60%. It's really looking at previous examples of writing, around that process, doing in-class writes, and beyond just a simple upload of a document or a paper to determine whether it is plagiarism.
Yes, first off, I think the tech day, like professional development thing is great, especially because like I always hear teachers like, oh, like professional development isn't the most engaging always. So that's good that we have that. And yeah, I think like the sports for teachers is super important in terms of like also learning how to like utilize AI with grading, because that takes up, like I consistently hear that take up the most time for teachers. And then in addition, like I really appreciate the scaffolding scale thing that you showed on the report. And I think we need to use that more, because I think there's a time that we should be using AI and then the time that we shouldn't. Because even personally, and like seeing all the students around me, like it's really easy to become over reliant and then not like have these critical thinking skills. So I still think we need like in-class rights where it's like monitored and you can't use AI, or like conversations, group discussions where you're still meant to be thinking on the spot. Because I think even though like students should be learning the skills to how to utilize in daily life, like we also need to make sure that we can still think and like develop ideas ourselves. Yeah, and also I haven't learned that much about the environmental impact. So I'm sure like the AP environmental science class has, but I think it would be useful to like learn a little, but it doesn't need to be a priority right now. So yeah.
Yeah, Christina. So, certainly thank you for your, input. And I will tell you that the usage of water is like, it is a significant. I can share, I have some data here, but I can share with you. But what I want to say mostly it is, I do agree that we want to see what is impacting the students right now. And at the same time, because it's so new, this is the time that we can throw questions so you are prepared. Like, for example, if there's how are we protecting the student data when staff use it, and some of this has been answered, and especially for those students that have IPs or 504s, that a lot of that information falls under HIPAA. So those questions matter right now, because it is when you are developing policies to protect all the students. It is so new that it is right now. It's like, are we Googling it or ChatGPT? And right now it's starting to be a verb. So it is a time to question those things. And I will give you the data very quick here. Well, you can ask the questions and I will give you the data, because I have it here, how much water.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, though, for me, the focus is on the promise and the hope with high impact tutoring. I'm also certainly cognizant of the capacity for cheating and plagiarism. And on that, if we haven't looked into it, I think we should revisit our plagiarism policy and just update it and streamline it, so we're very clear what the process is for any students that have been accused, rightly, wrongly, but accused of plagiarism, and that we know that there's a process in place and that it's fairly straightforward what that looks like.
I wanted to just chime in, like I'm having a lot of experience with this myself, as ChatGPT has been allowed, not allowed in my, now that I'm back at school at UW. And some things are like, you're allowed to Google, but not to use ChatGPT. And I've now had a class myself where part of just submitting a paper is signing an attestation saying that I have not used generative AI in any portion of this paper. So that's something that may be kind of trickling down to the high school level pretty soon. I did want to say that I think the more information students can have, the better in terms of what the environmental impact is, because just like, I think some of our kids are really careful about like turning lights off and recycling their stuff and composting and whatever. And if you want them to have the choice to maybe not use something that is like 50 gallons of water, maybe they're home taking like a 3-minute shower to save water, but if they don't know that like, doing something in ChatGPT is going to cost like however much Christina is going to inform us, it's just good to know and for them to make their own decision. My daughter is an artist and she will not use any kind of generative AI involving art, because like a lot of what's been fed into those AI models is like art stolen from, professional artists. And so she also won't let anyone else in our house use it. Like she just comes down on us like a ton of bricks, and someone's like, hey, like here's me with the cat head. And she's just like, who did you steal that from? Like, like how can you do this stuff? She's like our little, ethical watchdog on the art front. But again, you want kids to be a part of, the social emotional learning process is about like developing your own sense of ethics and kind of work and comfort and honesty and so forth. So I think the more info that kids can get, the better. Christina already addressed it, and I know you mentioned Andrews, but I just wanted to confirm, you mentioned like the FERPA rules, and of course there's HIPAA rules when there's medical stuff involved, but just confirming that staff are trained in how to not violate students' privacy rights if they're looking for, say, treatment plans or things like that on ChatGPT.
Correct, yeah, and you touched on IUPs correctly. That is training that we provide to our teachers as well, around what information might be able to be included within an IEP, versus how to utilize that. And again, with our IEPs, they're so personalized, we want to make sure that it's not just a generic response, and that it is tailored to our students, right? That is the
Right. And I just want to reiterate, I'm not suggesting that there aren't concerns, environmental impacts. It's that our team and the focus that it's so far beyond the scope of what we can impact. Certainly educate our students that there is an environmental impact. I just don't want, I want our team focusing on our students and staff, not on this new crazy world of AI. And that's all.
I do think there are apps, since I'm using a lot where I'm allowed to, where it's helpful. I do think there's a lot of ways in which it is just a better technology for some tasks that were poorly technologized in the past. For example, I had a bunch of data the other day and I was like, can you put this into a table that I could put into Microsoft Word? And it was like, sure, bam, table, like something that has always just been really kind of hard to do in Word and that I would have struggled with for like an hour. And I was like, well, okay, that was an improvement. But Dan, you kind of, it's like an auction. I thought I saw movement.
Christina, do you have the data for
Yeah,
us?
I have a little bit, but I will tell you, like, for every image generated, it's 1 liter of water, which it might not seem a lot, but during the hype of when you saw everybody putting their final image, it was 200 and almost 50 million liters of water used during 5 days. Kenya uses in 1 day that kind of water. So it's a whole country. So I feel that seeing the difference between East Washington and West Washington, not having that, and I will definitely bring that information related to Washington next session, or we'll send it to Fred and all of you, not being conscious of the water usage when we are in states that we are in crisis. It's a water crisis around the world and in the States. So I'm not saying not using it, it's just ensuring that every single student in the district understands that this is a moment in crisis in the world that we need to teach kids about water conservation, and that's a fact. That is, yes. So that's my fact. I will say. I do think that this is something that matters, and yes.
Yeah, so like incorporating that environmental like learning with like the expectations, with the ethics around it. Yeah, so I think that would be.
Yeah, I would just point out that a single almond takes 1.1 gallons of water. There's a lot of environmental concerns are real, and like climate change is real. But I'm not sure singularly focusing on AI is appropriate. I mean, there's a lot of other candidates as well. So I do agree with Deborah on this, that I think that we should focus on the way best to implement the technology, not blinding ourselves to the environmental impact. But if we're going to go down that route, there's a lot of other things we could point to, from travel to food, so on and so forth. And if we start going down that like pretty soon, I don't think we're going to do the core of focusing on what it is to improve educational outcomes.
And as I mentioned, it's not that I'm saying not to, I'm just saying that it is part of the critical thinking on how we take care of our work. So I agree with it, it's just part of it. This is something that
I wanted to also just add as a possible thing to talk about if we ever do a study session to kind of follow up on this. I'm really interested in how it's like, if this is great at hearing how we're teaching our staff and our students to use AI or not use AI, but I'm really interested in how the existence of AI is changing how we do other types of teaching. So for example, how do you send home, Spanish homework if kids can use AI to, or honestly Google Translate to like fill in their homework? Do you have to have them do it in class, like live? Like that's just sort of more curiosity for me. Like as this technology is kind of morphing and changing, like I'm curious what impact it has on sort of more traditional types of teaching and stuff. But there's nothing urgent about this. Like
I've taken down a lot of notes on this. And the closing thought I would have on that is I think it's I would say our language teachers and our math department to a certain extent too, have been the ones who, as other departments have awakened to AI, they've been the ones saying, we've been dealing with this for 10 years with how kids are having to navigate or what we're having to do. So a great conversation. I want to cut Andrews loose so he can catch his flight on that part. Thank you, Andrews, for that.
thank you.
Wait for public input or student.
Sure.
And student questions.
And student report to you. Like I'm just saying, like
we
this
can
has
do
so
that,
many
and then
people.
we'll
Sorry.
come back.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we do you? Is that you guys and then? public input?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we have a lot of, this is our last board report of the school year, so, yeah. Yeah, and then, yeah, my last meeting is next month, but, yeah. Okay, starting off the elementary school, the second graders at Island Park are learning how to make code robots, and they're learning basic coding techniques, to make dash robots dance and make noise. So here we already see technology incorporated in classrooms. And they get to set up dance routines for the robots and then show them off to the class. And second graders also spend 5 weeks out of every year getting various lessons about how to code, like our code. And we're so grateful that students get to keep engaging in activities like this. And then Island Park alumni Arwa Modka returned to the school during April to present a lesson on Middle Eastern cultures to 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And April was a National Arab American Heritage Month, so this is the perfect time to celebrate and a great way to teach your students about different cultures. And then in addition, at Lake Ridge, 3rd graders performed a Midsummer's Night's Dream this week, and students have been working with actor and director Heather Hawkins to memorize and perform lines in Old English for this play. Lake Ridge 4th graders have also recently traveled to Olympia, and they got to learn about the state government, the importance of civic engagement, and learn about how they can engage in the communities.
Yeah, and then the city's capital parks manager, Shelby Peralt, visited Lake Ridge and plans to visit the other elementary schools as well to ask for student feedback on what they would like to see in Deneen's Children's Park or like the Dragon Park. So she showed students different options and then they allowed them to vote on different options for what they would like in the park. So it's really great to see student feedback being used for city decisions. Lake Ridge also hosted their culture night where Lake Ridge families and students come together to share and celebrate many cultures in their schools. So students got to bring instruments, food, perform songs and dance and make presentations about their cultures. Northwood PTA members Katie Gilham and Becky Ardullo also dressed up to deliver some Wicked themed snacks at Northwood for Staff Appreciation Week. So it's super awesome to see our staff so appreciated. The Northwood student Michael Zulahev won the gold medal in Greco-Roman wrestling and the bronze medal in freestyle wrestling at the Washington Freestyle and Greco-Roman Championships this month. So super proud of him. Lakers 3rd graders also recently went to Camp Coleman for 2 days to learn about the environment in the Sound and do other fun activities like dissecting squids, rock climbing, and going on hiking trips. Lakers 5th graders also recently got to do their sweatshirt signing, which is always really fun at the end of the year.
Yes. In addition, West Mercer 3rd graders recently got the opportunity to check out bird boxes, which are provided by the Bird Museum and have information on fossils and extinct animals. And then in addition, Lakers 3rd grader Adrit P took 1st place in the Outstanding Interpretation for Music Composition category in the U.S. National PTA Reflections Contest. And he performed a piano piece called Starts and Scribbles. In addition, Lake Ridge first graders also visited the Bellevue Botanical Gardens to end their studies on plants. And they were able to explore the plants that they've been learning about up close and get that real life experience with themselves. Yes. And then moving on to the middle school, the IMS band, orchestra, and choir have been performing for fourth graders across the district as they decide what they might want to pursue in middle and high school. And elementary schools have been able to try out their instruments as they decide for next year and potentially joining the fifth grade band and orchestras. And the band performed Cantina Band, the choir sang Sisi Ni Moha, and the orchestra performed A flat at their spring concerts. And additionally, 4 IMS seventh graders composed a solo inspired by Adele's Rolling in the Deep to perform at one of their concerts. And it's great to see students get firsthand experience as they make big decisions on what instruments they might do or create their new music. So, yeah.
IMS leadership also recently hosted an Adam Sandler Spirit Day, or the most spirited Gator time, getting a prize. Adam Sandler Spirit Days, who would wear baggy clothes and stuff like the Adam Sandler style. Leadership also handed out teacher appreciation crowns to every teacher that were personalized. So, for instance, one of the math teachers got a crown that said "Best at Handling Teenage Staff." So, great to see our leadership appreciating our teachers. IMS also recently hosted a bike safety assembly with our school resource officer, Olivia Fan, to discuss laws around bikes, e-bikes, and scooters. And then in addition, IMS leadership helped make the assembly fun with some different activities like a bike safety trivia and a bike safety relay. Our SSA students also reported that SBEC schedules have been going well, and that it was actually fun, according to one of them. We also heard that some teachers have been letting students go outside in nice weather, which is always great to hear. And then moving on to the high school, the Mercer Island High School Green Team members visited Northwood on April 22nd to give an Earth Day presentation to third graders. They taught students about the importance of protecting the environment and simple ways to help out in the community and environment. So, and then they finished the presentation off with a fun planting activity.
Yes, and then the high school trombone quartet took first place at the Washington Music Educators Association State Solo Ensemble Contest that happened at the end of April in Ellensburg. And a trumpet ensemble also won third place, and a solo trumpet also won second place at the state competition. In addition, at the spring band concert, the seniors played their annual senior piece, and the seniors chose a song called The Vikings to play, and they also selected Henrik Barnes as their student conductor. The Mercer Island High School Jazz Ensemble also will join the famous trumpet player Marcus Printup and the Bothell High School Jazz Ensemble for a performance at the Triple Door in Seattle on Tuesday, May 27th next week. So you can also get tickets for that to watch more of our amazing band. And then in addition, this past weekend, the band also traveled to Spokane to march in the Lilac Parade. And they stopped by Moses High School on the long bus ride to Spokane. And we were able to practice on the track and socialize with Moses Lake students. And in addition, the orchestra also performed at Carnegie Hall and explored New York City when they were there. And the students worked really hard for this amazing opportunity. And we are so proud to have our district represented on the national level.
The band also did a garage sale on May 10th to fundraise for their London parade. To fundraise for the Macy's Day Parade, they hosted a Mindy 500 racing themed ticket fair style event. So this year students sold everything from books to beanbags and even Nerf Friend collections to gather money for this London trip. So the band is doing a lot of great things to prepare for this parade and help out students with the money aspect of it. The IMHS Biotechnology Research and Ethics team also recently took a field trip to the UW Institute of Stem Cell and Regenerative Medicine last Thursday. Students got to tour 4 labs, participating in career panels, and talking to students about their research. They also engaged in an activity where they were able to extract their own DNA and where they could practice problem-solving issues related to bone regeneration research, which was led by UW professors. So this was clearly a really cool opportunity. The IMHS Career Adventure Van also recently made its final trip to the Seattle Central College's Health Education Center, where students got to learn about programs related to surgical skills, nursing, and dental assisting. They also listened to an interactive Dummy's Heartbeat, took a tour of the gym, and visited the Seattle Culinary Academy. IMHS students from theater tech, metal jewelry design, and others also recently enjoyed a lot of experiential learning opportunities related to utilities, construction, knot tying, public transportation, and more at the Women in Trades Fair at the Seattle Center. There are more than 100 booths representing various skilled trades and companies hiring for these skills. So it's really great to see our students getting opportunities to explore careers before they go into them.
And related to all the career exploration, the high school also sent 19 students to the ICDC competition in Orlando that happened at the end of April. And we saw a lot of great things. And senior Jessica Singh also placed in finals, which is super impressive. Cool things are also happening with Mercer High School alumni. Mercer class of 2020 alumni, Zitong Wong, invited Mercer High School science teacher Shannon Sue to join her at a luncheon at Stanford University for the top 5% graduating students in the School of Engineering. And this is a cool award where 25 high achieving students get to pick one secondary teacher they felt was most influential on them. And Mr. Sui got to go there and his trip was paid for and he got to speak about his student. In addition, Mercer High School class of 2020 alumni Lila Stroff was also a guest on CNN recently to talk about her recent piece in the magazine titled The Gen Z Lifestyle Subsidy. And she's also assistant editor at The Atlantic. And it's amazing to see our alumni do great things and super inspiring. In addition, the 889 The Bridge's Passion for Fashion podcast, hosted by two freshmen, Callie Yusefier and Lila Peters, was recently featured on Studio 13 Fox. And the group got to meet up with another alum, Sophia Azano, who is currently interning at Fox 13 Seattle this summer. And it was great to see our students get interviewed there. And as freshmen, like they have a whole 4 years ahead of them, so it was super impressive. And we also had senior Anna Carson, who's the head of marketing and social media for The Bridge, cover that and do a story takeover for the Instagram. And related to radio, senior Marley McDonald had a Breakfast on the Bridge interview with Amanda Knox, an American author, activist, and journalist. And her story is she spent almost 4 years incarcerated in Italy after wrongful conviction in the murder of a fellow exchange student. And so she had an amazing story that Marley was able to cover. And she will be the keynote speaker at the 2025 Stanley and Dunn Scholarship. That'll happen at Seattle U on May 24th, where 3 Mercer Island High School students will be honored. In addition, Mercer Island High School Horticulture wrapped up their annual plant sale with specials and sales.
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
That was okay. So leftover plants are currently being planted in the Lake Ridge Learning Garden residence today with help from the Lake Ridge PTA. The INS Edge Fine Arts program was fundraising for the Wounded for Warrior project to make a difference in the lives of America's injured veterans and their families. So each year students present, research, and vote on a local nonprofit to support. So this year they chose to donate their funds by selling handmade pottery items to the Mercer Island Veterans of Foreign Wars Association. So it's really great to see our students helping out other people. And in addition, Crest hosted Crest Fair this weekend. This was a fun event involving family activities such as temporary tattoos, face painting, a reptile man, popcorn, snow cones, bracelet making, and tons of other fun games. So we're really excited for Crest to maybe host a similar event next year. And as the year comes to a close, sports are wrapping up. So all spring sports have had their senior nights, and many are currently in their postseason or just wrapping up. We were reminded time and time again how great our sports teams are because MIHS cross-country athletes Owen Powell and Sophia Rodriguez were named the 2024-2025 Gatorade Washington Boys and Girls Cross-Country Players of the Year. So they were named the 2 best high school cross-country runners in all of Washington, which is super impressive. Cross-country long-distance coach Susan Endy also won the 2024 Boys Cross-Country Coach of the Year award by the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Association.
Yes. And then sophomore Aaliyah Khan broke her own school record in the triple jump at a recent invitational. And the girls the entire track and field team won first place at Kinko, winning almost every event and crushing second place Inglemoor with almost double the points. 21 boys and 24 girls will move to districts today and on Saturday, and will be competing at Rental Memorial Stadium. Mercer High School sophomore Joe DeGrassi battled his way to second place finish in singles in boys tennis at the district's tournament, qualifying for state. And doubles team Gian Monjas and Noah Band placed second at districts and will also qualify for state, which will be held in Vancouver, Washington this week. And in addition, girls tennis won Kinko and have 2 doubles teams and 1 singles player moving on to state. So way to go, tennis.
Yeah. MIHS boys golf also recently won against Bellevue, winning the state boys golf championships at a golf course in Spokane recently. 5 girls on the MIHS girls golf team also recently went to Indian Candy Golf Course in Spokane for their state championship. Boys soccer also recently won Kinko in the Jungle and will be playing in the Jungle again tomorrow at 7 p.m. for their districts game. The MIHS girls lacrosse team also recently defeated Issaquah at a state championship semifinal and faced Seattle Prep last week at the Starfire Stadium for the state championship final. They nearly won the match and put up a good fight at the game, coming in state runner-up this year, but we're still super proud of them, of course. The lacrosse team also had an amazing feature on King 5 News. Chris Egan from King 5 Sports said the Islander Stadium for a story on the MIHS girls lacrosse program and senior Chelsea Cho playing for Team Korea at a World Cup qualifier. So the segment aired this week, and super proud of them. The Islander Unified Soccer team also recently defeated Interlake Saints 9-7 in a game at the stadium. Sparkle Cheer was also there to cheer the team on. So as we look towards next school year, we're having a couple new coaches as well. So Connor Campbell, an MIHS class of 2011 alum, was recently named the new head coach of the MIHS wrestling team. And then MIHS class of 2015 alum, Topher LaCramp, was recently named the new MIHS boys water polo head coach. So we're so excited to welcome them back into our sports communities. And additionally, on the topic of new things in the district recently installed new EV chargers, some right up at the back of the district building and some in the visitor lot of the high school. So there's now 10 chargers at the high school and 4 at the district building, with charging available to all MISD staff and students during school hours and open to the public after hours. Additionally, related to transportation, the King County Metro came to the high school recently and gave a presentation about how to utilize the public transportation system, giving out and registering Orga cards to all the students who got to go. And they will also be hosting a safety course at Crest, which will be open to all. So hope to see more students on the Metro.
Yes, and then in the past several weeks, the high school has gone into testing mode. So students have been taking AP tests, SBAC tests, and finals as the school year gets to the end. And then everything was running smoothly thanks to our wonderful test coordinator, Debbie Hansen, and our amazing tech team that was always there to give a loaner computer or an extra charger to students that needed them, especially as tests shifted to more hybrid or fully digital this year. In addition, the counseling department has been working hard to make sure seniors graduate. So they've been coming into his senior history classes to share information about things that seniors need to do to graduate. So thank you, Ms. Kenyon, for helping do all of that as well and doing all of the career-related and college-related events. And then as this year wraps up, seniors are ready to check out, but with the upcoming senior tea and prom to look forward to, seniors are still hanging in there. And we also have heard that many underclassmen have left to be part of the senior nights and senior school spirit. And the radio program is even working on senior salutes, which are where students interview a senior and then they ask about like advice and like things that they thought about their high school experience. And this will be aired this summer. So that's great content for the bridge this summer. And also with graduation and everything coming up, there's an opportunity to order a grad grant for any 5th grader, 8th grader, or graduating senior. And these grad grants have been a MI community tradition for almost 50 years. And when you purchase one, you can receive a printed and personalized letter like this one. So yeah, lots of things to update on. And if I was another school district, I'd be like, wow, like MI, like leave some space because you're winning all the state championships for everything. So yeah, so much to boast about for our schools. Thank you.
So wait, can I ask super quick? I saw the senior tea. So is this all of the awards that all the separate award ceremonies are getting merged?
There's ish, but.
The PTSA awards are still a standalone on Tuesday, actually coming up. And the senior breakfast tea is to pull, but the assembly is meant to be a celebratory thing for the entire student body. So the senior tea is pulling out some of the community students for just seniors. Yeah. So if you folks don't mind holding on for just like a few more minutes, we only have one public speaker signed up. Do we don't need to put, do we need to put the podium?
I don't think so. We'll just have, if the three of you would just slide back there and then we can bring our speaker.
Okay. Well, I will read the spiel. School board meetings are business meetings of the Mercer Islands.
Oh, you want me to put?
Oh, no. Okay. School board meetings are business meetings of the Mercer Island School District Board of Directors held in public. The board recognizes the value of the public being able to observe these meetings and to provide comment within the following guidelines. Public comment is an opportunity for community members to provide input to and feedback on the work of the board and the district. It is not a time for dialogue between the board and the public. Board directors do not respond directly to questions or comments posed during public comment. However, the board's silence should not be taken as agreement or disagreement with the speaker's remarks. The board may later direct the superintendent to respond to issues raised during public comment. Members of the public offering comment must adhere to the same level of civility that the board expects of itself as specified in board policies. This includes not using threatening or profane language in comments and not directing individual attacks against staff, students, administrators, or board members. Please note that comments have the potential to violate the rights of others under various laws, including those protecting privacy and those prohibiting defamation. Comments that name or identify a district student are not permitted without permission of that student's parent or guardian. Speakers who violate any of these rules will be cut off and their speaking time ended. Speakers should state their full name for the record at the start of their comment and are encouraged to indicate their relationship to the district. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to comment and additional time if using an interpreter. If you are present, okay, yeah. We only have, if anyone is present in person at tonight's meeting and wants to make a comment and has not yet completed a public input form, they can complete the form and give it to Michelle Mueller. The forms are at the entrance to the boardroom. The cutoff to register for online public comment is 1 hour before the start of the meeting. Okay, that's a mouthful. I believe
that's longer than 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's my time. I believe Tom Acker's our only signed up speaker. If you want to just come to the table.
Sorry, I just kind of wrote out some notes here, but this weekend I went to an event called Stand With Us, and it's an amazing organization. It teaches the importance of really standing together as a community, especially when wrongs are being committed. And there's a pattern on Mercer Island, whether it's weird videos being shown in classrooms or this Mercer Island Reporter article with swastikas being painted on Mercer Island buildings, or even what happened last year. This is from 2019. And then there was a shooting last night in DC of some Israeli embassy officials, obviously October 7th. And I was really pleased to see that Ava and her colleagues are leading the way and coaching the board on how to behave as leaders while they're not necessarily taking the direction. It's good to see, and the petition that's going on around now that the students have created regarding graduation is something really impressive. I'll read a paragraph out of that. Given the recent tragedy that took place in DC, we as a community need to separate ourselves from anti-Israel and anti-Semitic extremism that is plaguing our country. Allowing someone who has called for violence on our social media to be present betrays not only our Jewish students, but our entire student body. So it's really good to see that your colleagues, Ava and Lucy, are taking action and that you're giving advice and counsel to the board. The board has very much acknowledged it's a dysfunctional board. You all said it, the student reps have addressed it. Now, ironically, this is the irony. This is the first time I've seen Dan, Christina, Deb, Maggie, the four of you stand together in unity for something I don't even believe in. And while I don't support Ms. these views, it's clear that all of you support them as you've not even issued a statement or taken any action against it. And to me, that is meaningful, and it's disappointing that you aren't looking out for our community members in such a divisive, I think that started late, but I'm going to wrap it up quickly. But when you have such divisive comments, it's not appropriate. So with the student petition that's going around, it's really centered around not having that official there because that official doesn't represent the views of the students. So I'd really just ask all of you to reflect on it. Hiding behind the lack of a public policy on posting as a board of director is not appropriate. You're all leaders. You have a role in the community. And now more than ever, with the anti-Semitic backlash that is going throughout our community and the assault, the physical assault on your college, Maggie Tai, in the engineering building by the pro-Palestinian supporters was atrocious. So I would only ask you all to do the right thing, stand up and take some action. And, you know, and I'm sorry about the bond. I knew that that was going to be a challenge, especially with this board. And
I think you're actually out of time.
yeah,
I don't
that's
know why the-
but I will be supporting the levy if it's well run. Thank you.
That's public input for today. Thank you. I would love to take a 5-minute break before we reset and start tackling the rest of the weekend. Thank you. So I'm back at. Thank you all for your patience. I want to get to the next topic, which is CCR.
All right, we're gonna turn it over to Jen McClellan
I get to be.
for her annual college and career readiness report.
Thank you so much. I actually really do enjoy this. Anytime I can, share what's happening in the CCR department, a lot of it was in our student rep advisory report. So it's like, oh, CCR class, CCR class, CCR class. So that was nice to see. So you took a little bit of the wind out of myself, but super awesome. I submitted a monstrous report because I don't really know what to take out. There's so much wonderful things going on. I know you can all read, so I'm not going to go through it piece by piece. I'm really just going to stick to the 20,000 foot level. And I think the first one is just program wide. CCR extends from both middle school at IMS and high school. And we have 66 courses and 31 teachers. So we are a very big department. We sort of vie with special ed. They're still a little bit bigger than us, but we're about the same. We're getting close to the same size. I am enormously proud. I stand on the shoulders of people that have done so much work, and then my team as well, that we are a single high school district, and we have a breadth and a depth of courses that is really incredible. So we have representations in each of our 6 pathways, in each of the 6 CTE, CCR pathways in our high school. Every single pathway is represented, and almost always we have an advanced opportunity or a second, third, fourth level. So if students find something that they're passionate about, interested, they can dive deep. And so really proud about that. I get teased sometimes about how many CCR courses we have. But I love that opportunity is there for our students. So it's really terrific. And we continue to try to see what's out there, respond to what industry wants, make sure that we provide that opportunity for our students. I want to call out 2 populations that really make this happen. And one was so well illustrated in your report. The first population, RY, is the students. And just again, 20,000 foot level observation is if we provide them the opportunity, no matter what it is, in the class, in a competition, in a deep dive into a subject area, it is so satisfying and extraordinary to watch them walk through it and just grab it and go. So, our DECA students, one of which was Brody that was here, watching how they take that and just run with it. And our biotech kids, they actually also went to the Allen Institute in the fall. So Samantha Barnes is doing wonderful things with that course. So our students just take the opportunities and run with them. So love seeing that. The second population to do a shout out about, of course, is our teachers. And well, I'd love to claim credit for everything that CCR is doing. I don't. It's really nothing. I do the paperwork, right? And I remove the roadblocks. It's really our teaching staff that are dedicated and passionate and willing to put in the incredibly long hours and create these opportunities, these courses, and find enrichments out there. We've never had as many field trips as what we have now. Our teachers are really getting our kids out of the classroom and into spaces that reflect what they're learning. So we're so lucky. The CCR staff is in a really terrific place right now. Veteran teachers that have the industry chops and are bringing that into the classroom. And so I'm so grateful to them. So they really get the credit for developing the pathways and the courses that we have. So I'm open for questions. I can talk about anything for any length of time, and so be a little careful about that, what you ask. But super proud. I think in closing, I just want to say thank you. I'm keenly aware, as I chat with other CT directors around the state, that one of the reasons we can do what we do is we have an administration that well, they may not say unabashed yes to every one of my crazy ideas. They say, let's talk, and then we move into making things happen. So I'm so grateful to live in a district, work in a district that allows that, and then we have a school board and a community. The community steps up over and over again to support, and that's a special thing to have. So thank you. And I'm open for questions.
I do have. So, in high school, what is the percentage of students that take a class on, that is, college readiness?
100%.
100%.
Yeah, it's a graduation requirement, so they all need to take one course. I don't have the specific number of repeat offenders, as you say, but it is an enormous population that digs in deep and takes more than one. Yeah. Yeah, we're really lucky.
And the question comes, and I will say I have the advantage that I have been talking to schools and students from different districts around the region, and I will share that one of the students in a Seattle area high school did share that they wish that every single student does have this opportunity, because it's only the ones that in their schools that go to Running Start or have AP that will have the experience of what will college look like, and knowing that at least it's a requirement in our district that at least once they will touch that level, brings that ease on what they want.
What I'm also pleased, we don't really talk about it that much, but it's also really extremely valuable is if our students choose to take a course, and like, I'm sorry, Shannon Tapp's going to go after me, dumping on accounting, you take accounting course and then you realize, oh my gosh, I never want to touch accounting again, right? Much better to find that out in high school than when you paid 2 years in college, right? So it's also a chance to just dip your big toe into courses and sort of find out which ones you might like and then dig into. So we're really lucky that they can sort of this is smorgasbord of things so they can figure out what they want. Thank you. Fred first.
Just kind of, the credit to Jamie and Jen too, and the work around cross-crediting and trying to make courses accessible. Cross-crediting, is that right?
It's dual credit,
Dual-
but we just call it college credit now to
Thank
avoid
you.
any confusion.
And you speak, yeah.
So it opens those doors. And then also, there are some grad pathways for some of our students if they're taking sequential, but, yes, 100% take a class, but the breadth of the classes that we have, I think there's a large percentage who take way more than one credit before they graduate. And many of them they're fulfilling AP plus CCR plus, others. So it's great.
Yeah, we're living into that demand. Can I just jump in before you jump in to say, how does it work like in radio? Because I've not had any kids go through the radio program yet. Like, are they still taking the same class over and over again, or are there like different levels of radio? Or I get to answer that question. This is also a gift of having a 7-period day. I mean, let's just really be honest. We're watching Lake Washington as a CT in the CT world. We're watching Lake Washington having the CT department just being devastated because our kids have the ability to dive in. I'll use radio as an example. There's an intro radio class. They can take whenever they want to take it. They'll take it as freshmen. And then there's typically an advanced class. So we'll have a pathway first and second. They are lucky that they also have a third option, which is ABRO, but it stands for Advanced Broadcasting. Oh my gosh, I just failed my job. Wow. Radio operations. Yes. Tired brain. There you go. And that is, that is a selected course. Not everyone can go in that. They're actually running the station. I'll use business and marketing as an example. Intro to marketing, they take as sophomores, and that's a high level that skims across everything, finance, entrepreneurship. I mean, it just does everything. And then they can sort of go out and spider web to different courses that we have, but the typical pathways, advanced marketing would be junior year, and then international entrepreneurship is the senior class. And the senior class is essentially an application class where here's the student company, you have all the book smarts, you got it all, now do it. And it is adorable to watch them because they're super smart. I mean, fabulous student, but business is messy. And running a business is hard. And so they flail, and it's okay to flail and fail. It's okay to do that. And the learning is just profound at that level. Same thing with ABRO and our advanced computer science applications. It's the same role. So the point is, if they find something, they have a chance to just dive in. That's great. Thank you. Great question. Thank you.
That mostly comment and I, like, this is my jam, like the CCR stuff is, I was a business major in college, I'm a lawyer. Having watched at least my student go through many of them, when I look at the EBS survey and see students, not, and it doesn't typically rate very well, like this course, I see real world, implications in what I'm learning, and it breaks my heart. And, I can go back 30 years plus to when I was here. I'm like, wait, how many years was that? And then Jamie was behind me a ways. So I don't know how, and Dan too, I don't know how much it changed in that time, but there were none of these opportunities. And I think the only, like, I was looking for one, and I remember taking like business math or something. It was the only like sort of thing that I could do. And I went into college blindly as a business major. And I frankly, there were parts of it I hated it. And so it scares me when I see these college posts and what they're going to major in. It's like, but you've never taken that or that or that. I know you haven't.
Yeah.
So how do you know? And that's great that there's that interest. But anyways, that terrifies me. And I love the breadth and depth of the opportunities that our students have now. There wasn't economics, and there wasn't business law, and there wasn't, all these things. And the way I got to law was my senior year in college. I had to take business law as part of my business requirement. And that was my educational aha moment, big time. And so I always did fine, but it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
And so, I watched these kids who, aren't necessarily, jiving on calculus or AP Chem or whatever, because that's just not the ones that it is fantastic. They have that, but there's so many that it isn't. And this is where they find their connection to education.
The why.
The why and the real world. And then just, I never realized, the level, I love the way that the path that you're on in terms of, most schools it's CTE, career technical education. So it's seen as a less than. And this community didn't stand for that. And it was the CCR. So the career and college readiness, like really this is impacting everybody, and it should impact everybody in whatever area you want to go into. The real world implications and the opportunities with the dual credit, as an example, I didn't know this until as a parent, and then really as a parent of a college student, to see not all colleges take the credits, but we're saving on a year of college because of the community college credits from the CCR courses.
Yeah.
And not AP classes and not anything else. And those are great opportunities also.
Yeah.
But these, we're talking $25 to $50 per year.
Yeah.
To get as many college credits as you can with the dual credit programs. And we can't broadcast that enough. And I don't think we do.
And people don't know it. We try to broadcast.
I know you do.
I know.
And I got the email and it says sign up for this. I was like, oh, okay, I'll sign up for it. And I did. But literally it's saving us a year of college tuition.
So what Deborah's referencing is that we've articulated many of our CCR courses with area colleges. And so we have 85 college credits available at Mercer Island High School, just if you take the course and get a B or above. You don't have to take a test. You don't have to do anything. And it does. You can, it's 85 credits, right? And so that's one of the reasons we shifted from dual credit to just call it college credit. It's college credit. And you did mention that some colleges don't take it. They absolutely should. And when we find out about it, the first phone call I have is to OSPI. And I say, are you aware that blah, blah, blah college is not taking your accredited college, community college, whatever. And that route will solve it, because the registrar, these are accredited Washington State colleges. Bellevue College is most of the credits, but every college should take those credits.
So that's even better than AP, because some schools require, well, maybe it can be elective credits. I don't want to get too much in the weeds. My point is that there are so many benefits to these opportunities, and the students know about them, but until we go through it, and there's just, I don't know how we can.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got an email and it said, do this. So I did it. And I just happened to have the time in that moment to do it. So I did it. But
But our accounting class, you can test with, if you have the college credit through our accounting class, if you go to Foster's, you don't have to take the one-on-one accounting. Go right past it because it's the same course.
And most importantly, like you said, it's the opportunity to say, hey, I really don't like accounting. I don't want to do accounting. And that's as important as finding out what you love. So anyways, thank you for this. I know how much work it is in terms of all the opportunities and all the courses. And I see huge benefit to every single one of our students. And I see what I also love is I've been judging at the DECA competition for the last bunch of years, and to see a teacher bring a student with higher level of needs and making ways to make sure that every student has that opportunity, and he was assisted through it, and it's just so important. It's for every student. So I just wanted to make note of that it's really an inclusive program, and just thank you for it. That it doesn't happen without effort.
I just want to jump in really fast before Christina and Fred again. Just to say that it's really true, not only in terms of paying less college tuition, but my son is a junior now and was majoring in computer science and knew enough about robotics that he was able to he decided the very last minute, last semester, that he wanted to minor in robotics and was able to leapfrog over a bunch of the requirements because of what he did at our high school.
Yeah.
Both the class and then the team, so that's just get another bonus. Post high school. Sorry, Fred and Christina.
I'll defer to Christina because I kind of have a bridge between the two of them, so.
Okay, yeah.
So I think it comes to a conversation that I had last week with a student in the leakage session on how our students advise on their career in their choosing of their, it's not necessarily choosing college, but through their high school career, to be advised and on these courses, not only just by but this particular student, I think came, it was a new student as a sophomore, and felt that that was one of the things that he lacked, that it was there was an advisory to guide through all the opportunities and make better choices for what he wanted to achieve in college when he was very sure what he wanted. So more on how does this tie also with the counselors and the relationship with the students.
Right.
Yes.
Well, the standard process is it's through Naviance. And so high school and beyond plan, and that starts in the middle school where students start with an interest survey and then, course survey. And so that's sort of how the courses are chosen through that process. We are making a shift from Naviance to School Links, and that's statewide. And so the hope is not only that we're actually have a unified system across the state, which is a great idea, but also that platform is a little bit more interactive with our students. But yes, helping our students actually, in sixth or seventh grade, to at least start to identify not just interest, because of course your interest in seventh grade might not be really based in actual reality, right? I want to be a YouTube influencer is not really the career choice that you probably should go into. You may be a great, but anyway, but aptitudes, things along those lines. And we are constantly researching platforms. Ava was part of that team looking at a platform called U-Science, which is an aptitude-based platform. It was a little bit dry. Don't know how you could roll that out to a seventh grader, but yeah, always looking at things to help students actually make thoughtful choices. But a little bit of a pushback on that. It's okay if they just are like, oh, you know what? I'm interested in culinary. I think I'm just going to take it. Or, oh, theater tech. I like going to the theater. It's okay in high school for them to take these courses. And fortunately, with the 7 class periods, they have room to just try things out. There's some courses that make sense to try. Again, I'll go back to marketing just because it covers so many subject areas, so many of those intro classes, and that helps drive future decisions. And a lot of these conversations are happening in the class, back to CCR. Okay, you really like, in radio, you really like the programming element. You should take engineering tech. You should go that route to, things like you start to actually drive students based on what they really enjoy in their classes.
I
So,
want to talk a little bit about like the sizzle reels for different courses that Catch made and to like appeal to students and share through the online course catalog. Like there's lots of promo happening
Yeah.
as well.
constantly trying to make sure students understand what's out there and how to reach them in a medium that can capture their attention. And we're so lucky we have a resource with Michael Ketchup, who's our media technology teacher. So sizzle reels, which I didn't even know what that was until he was here, are those fast, flashy 90-second things. And so those are out there, and then pulling them in to actually have longer conversations with the teachers and things like that. So but basically letting them know what's out there is the first hurdle. And we try very hard to do that.
So, and I will just add that I love what I'm hearing, and at the same time, I'm listening to that student, and I think that he also was advocating a lot for those students that come in high school or maybe open enrollment that have not been part of the process. So maybe our way of how to support, but the question will also go later to Eva and Lucy that like the feedback for you in your experience, like what has been fantastic and what would you have loved to see through your career going through these courses and this program. Yes. So,
Can I? Oh, sorry, I want to, one of the things we did this year in Islander Hour is all students who were new to the district were placed in a specific Islander Hour, trying to help build some of those bridges, especially for students who don't have the longevity or the neighbors or the family friends who've been here. And that was with one of our longtime teachers who's been here for 25 plus years, plus one of our counselors who's been here for a long time. And so they co-lead the Islander Hour group. Intentionally trying to make sure that they're building additional connections and telling them about things, not course specific, but just onboarding specific.
Sorry, you can do it.
Jody, okay, Ava and Jody.
This is like partially in response to Christina, but also like connecting to everything. I think as a senior that's like gone through a lot of it, and like from elementary all the way up to like high school, I think like I really have gotten the opportunity. I could speak for a lot of my like peers that we do have opportunities to explore so many things. And I think like there's always a random element to whatever career you choose. Like, oh, you took this one class, you have a really great teacher that inspires his passion. And I think like the school district really does make the best like way to have students try out these things and have all these like random aha moments. And then like in terms of like a thing that like maybe got in the way, it's like learning about the courses. Like I was an older sibling, so I didn't really know as much. And back when the course catalog was just a PDF, I was like, what is economics? Like I keep reading descriptions, but I still don't know what it is, what it actually is, right? And so I think like the videos and like the continued work that the CCR department has been doing has been helpful. And like I remember last year there was like a Islander Hour thing, like you walk around and ask teachers and you can like talk and then go to classes in person and ask. And I think all the work that the CCR department has been doing to promote the education has been really helpful. And like all the lunch events, all those things have really been increasing. And I think we even see with like our alumni who like always come back and are like, Emma prepared me for the real world. So I think it's like massive, like really beneficial. And like the CCR department has been doing a lot of great work. So.
Thank you. I'll just add on to Ava real quick. I said like for the new students, I think it's like difficult in that sense because a lot of it does come from like older siblings or like friends you have in high school or like a teacher referencing to a class. So I think really I appreciate pushing that information out more and more to new students because so much of it is word of mouth, which is probably why that student had so much difficulty because there isn't those connections built up over their years here.
Just, I thought it's good. So I'll write it down. Yeah, write it down. I'm just really impressed with the library offerings that we have and not to be too much of a person in education nerd, but like the current term enrollment estimate came out today, which talks about like college enrollment trends. And, you know, undergraduate enrollment is up, but it is lagging still. And where we're seeing this explosive growth is that trade-based community colleges drew up like 11.7% in this for the third year in a row. And people are really going into like certificate programs, which have jumped like 4.8% this spring and is 20% higher than pre-pandemic. And I think, you know, people are really sort of studying, I mean, you hate to think of like a good liberal arts education like this, but the ROI on their college years and deciding that what they really want to do is get that
skill and trade that will allow them to, you know, start building a life maybe, and then later on go for the higher education or the college. And I think it's really impressive and important that students can start that process here and, you know, have that community college experience and the community college gains and benefits that they would have afterwards, and really, you know, either save a year of tuition, like some people at this table are doing, or just really get an understanding of what they're interested in before they make that huge financial investment that a lot of families are finding, you know, daunting these days. So I just want to reiterate what I think everyone has been saying about like how valuable this program is, and the robust nature of the program, I think, is something that really stands out at Mercer Island, and that I think we should all be very proud of.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now I have to give you a note. I have my note, but now I have to respond to what you just said. I think also when we think about our kids' social and emotional development, that these kinds of classes give kids a confidence that they are going to be able to do things themselves in the real world, which, like, in our kind of complex modern child raising culture is not always the case when they've had parents kind of helicoptering in to help them whenever they get stuck. Like, you know, if you're on air live, you gotta make something happen. When I became managing editor of my college newspaper, my immediate predecessor, someone who had the job 2 years before me, said, it's going to be at least 25 years before you're in charge, before you have this level of authority and have this many people working for you. I have a staff of 48 like news, photo, et cetera, people. And I was like, yeah, I don't think so, right? You know, and he was like, more than right. It was more like 35 years. So,
Yeah.
But it gives you that, you know, that hands-on kind of confidence that you can really make things happen. Ava.
Yeah, and like to add on to that, like the durable skills, like especially with like AI and stuff, like students need to know how to actually like act in the world, and it's not as important. Like, yes, the hard skills, like you need to know calculus or whatever, things like that. But like the chances to like explore and like have the real world opportunities in an incubated environment is really like useful. Like I don't know that many high schools that have a business within the school. So yeah.
Well, it's also the opportunity to fail too,
Mhm.
right? In a safe place. And all these classes offer that. And that is a powerful learning experience. And once you do it, you're like, oh, the life is not over. And guess what? I get to try again and learn. Anyway, it's really powerful learning experience too. Yeah. Thank you, you guys. I feel I'm gonna come here all of us. Okay, transition.
So I'm going to tie this all together and bring up our third leg of this presentation, and that is something that feels like it's been in our high school for many years, and I think we're just finishing year 2. And yet it feels like it's been so much, and I think that's credit to Christy Kenyon. And there were some original conversations probably 4 years ago with the 4 of us, and in other pockets around what could we do differently for preparing our students for what it looks like to matriculate through high school and know where you're going at the end. And 2 statistics that I pulled out that I think are relevant to this conversation, and then I'm going to move it over. One is I have a plan for what I want to do after high school, and that goes from 13% of our freshmen answering seldom, almost never true or seldom true, down to 3% for our seniors. Another statistic that I wanted to just pull out is what we do in school will help me succeed in life. And our seniors who are graduating out, only 5% of those answer that in a negative light. We want that to be 0, but I think it speaks to a lot of the work that's happening. And so I just want to kick it over to this team and really start talking about what is post-secondary success and what the supports look like.
All right. So Christy Kenyon is going to do much of the talking. I will drive a little bit to share some of the amazing resources that we have. But we want to just start with, I realized that people didn't understand when we talk about the career hub, the college and career hub at the high school. People were like, well, what is that? Well, that's actually just the catchy name that Christy gave it. It's really our college and career center. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the resources available and the systems that Christy has built.
over the course of the last 2 years, which are incredibly impressive. And you're only going to hear some of them based on the time that we have tonight. We'll talk a little bit about what's coming ahead. Looking ahead to the next year, we'll talk a little bit about some testing opportunities that our students have, and this is kind of bridging the conversations from earlier in the year about SAT and ACT testing and whether or not we host, et cetera. So those are the key topics we're going to talk about. But this is our Career Pathways Hub. It is a location, it is a person, and it is a plethora of resources. So I'm going to turn it over to Christy to kind of walk through some of these things, but I'm going to click on the webpage that she has that is chock full of resources that she can talk to about.
So thank you, Jamie. I want to preface this by saying that logo was designed by some PTSA very involved volunteers. And they are also, with Christina Getty, working on redesigning the website, because I've been maintaining it with the limited skills that I have. And apparently Bitmojis are out, which I'm riddled with. So these lovely people who have marketing backgrounds and all these other things are like, nope, we're parents, we know what we're looking for. And I'm like, well, this is what the kids do. And yeah, whatever. So we're working together as a team, but it will hopefully be a little bit more helpful for following year students. But anyway, this is here. I have tried to keep everything that's going on here. I think the most important thing is that I try to get the knowledge out to the students. So I do it by walking into their classrooms and telling them, you're not graduating unless you finish those 4 things on your task list. And I just hit the history classes hard this week. We had a little weird schedule, so I thought it was the right time. And so we went through those things in 5 minutes. And then I put things up on a wall, and you'll see a couple of pictures later. And then I get on the announcements when something really important is happening. I do what I can to let everybody know. I let Ian know, but usually it's after it's happened. So it's not, I'm not a marketing genius.
You better keep those bit emojis on.
I know. I
love them.
Speaking of, this is how my brain works. We're also going to be hiring student interns next year, because I can't handle the level of work that is required to keep moving this train forward and reaching everybody. So hire, not with money, but so we'll have a marketing intern, we're going to have a database building intern, and then a website intern. So I can't wait for that. I'm hiring sophomores, because juniors who are going into senior year are going to be too busy. So just kind of keep the word out. Okay. Well, anyway, there's stuff there. So can we go back?
Yeah.
Go ahead and say what you want to say about that, but it makes me feel disorganized.
Oh, I just think for people who I heard at one point, like, we don't know where to go or where information is. And this is just to say, there's so much information is here. And so if people will go to the college and career page, they can book appointments with Christy. They can check the college visit calendar. They can learn about the Lunch and Learn series, and Christy will touch on that in a little bit. It's, a presentation about preparing for senior year and the application process, about a boot camp that's going to be offered specific to our rising seniors, about the college application process after school gets out. There are webinars, there's information about financial aid, about careers. So it's just a wealth of information. So if there's any doubt about where to go to start the process, so many pieces are linked here in this website. And the least, or the most of which is to access Christy Drive. So I will come back to this.
Are you still doing the confetti?
I have them, and when the kids have come in and told me, this was a tougher year for decision making. Extremely different than last year.
Tell everyone or did.
Oh, that was last year. I ordered these little pop-ins. When the kids came in and told me they got into the school, they were excited about it. I said, here. I said, you could do it on Instagram, you could do it at home with your parents, or some of them I just have them popping it and then whatever. Yeah, actually, I'm so emotional at this point with some of these. I didn't even have a pop-it for you, did I? Did I get you?
You did.
Okay. See, I can't remember. So, yeah, I mean, it's been kind of, it's just one of those silly things.
So high level,
Christy's available 7:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. She takes appointments, drop-ins. She does whole group instruction through Lunch and Learns. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the Lunch and Learns that you've done?
Sure, yeah, so I mean, part of how I get access to kids is to present something and feed them, so, and then I have to stand out in the hallway with my tray of food and have them like salivate into the room. So the Lunch and Learns, are kind of just some standard things that people keep saying, it would be great if somebody taught the kids how to do this, and I know they do it in CCR classes, because I also taught CCR, but, I wanted kids to think about what's going on in the summer, and what they could be doing with their time to kind of move in directions that they're interested in, and, you know, getting ready to get hired for a job, build your resume, prep for interviews, and then specifically to, you know, Ava's class, knowing that they have a lot of things to be thinking about. We just kind of sat down and talked a little bit about all those things that they're thinking about, and then kicked it off to the class of 2026 to say, hey, I'm here, pay attention, I got stuff I need to give you. Right, Lizzie? Did I not just kind of do that this week also? So just basically giving them food, giving them information. I say free food, free advice, and that's what I do sometimes.
College visits.
College visits. So if you click on the college visit calendar, it's gonna look super duper sad because nobody's coming right now, which is totally fine. But this month we got Northwestern and Seattle U and one other. So beginning, but anyway, we did have people this month. So we had 225 schools come on campus this year to meet our students. And that to me is the biggest for kids who want to go to college or even a 2-year. I get on the announcements and I'm like, you are making a huge mistake if you don't go talk to these people. Like, they are the experts in this process. Don't, you know, nobody else knows unless they actually are admissions officers what's going on. So go talk to them. It doesn't matter if you want to go to that tiny little school in upstate New York. They may have information that you'll learn and assimilate. And so I'm really trying to teach them a little bit more about that. And then I'll stand there and, you know, bug them while they're talking and try to support them and asking questions if they can. Oh, and then we hosted a case study in college fair with Bellevue High School this year. And from that, we had, what did I say, 80 schools come, a select number come and do the case study part, which is going into the college application and making a decision. You actually become part of the decision-making process. So the year before, we had like 20-something schools or 30-something schools, and this year we had 18, so it's really freaking cool. Yeah.
But the slide deck is linked here. It's available on Christy's website. There's where people want to demystify the entire process. Like, it walks through.
It's a website. Could you go back? Or you could, it's on there too.
It is. I just have to leave. Go like this.
So confused. Yay, technology. I think the one thing that I bring to this job that may not always be, is I'm a teacher. I'm like a lifetime teacher. So there's nothing about this that disturbs me. If I'm standing here and this is happening, then we do something else.
I think it also helps that you're a mom and
Yep.
you've gone through this process at Mercer Island High School. That gives you so much.
Yes, you're totally right, because I had no idea what I was doing, and that was literally a year before I did this job. So I learned it. Talk about making a mistake. Yeah. Talk about failing forward.
Yep.
But yeah, so the kid, I can get to the kids, and it doesn't bother me to run in the middle of Dino's class and have him say, I'm talking about taco time, and I'm like, what? I'm just here to talk about Navidad. So those kind of things that bother me. This is, so Lisa, my colleague at Bellevue High School, built this beautiful website, and we are now going to just keep it. So we've now advertised our next year's time, dates. The colleges they have been linking it on their admissions things. So anyway, this is just a cool, you can go check it out and see what we did, and then you can come next year.
Not enough Bitmojis.
What's that?
There's not enough Bitmojis on that.
Right? But so that kind of website, that was built by just, Lisa, and then I was working on the case studies, so we're doing all the behind the scenes stuff to make it look as pretty as it looks. But we get a lot of support from our college partners and things like that. Okay.
chime in with a question, please. So this is like fantastic. It's really great to see all of this in one place. I'm so pleased with all the things you guys are doing. Is there a way to kind of close the loop for parents on this? Like, you know, I know as a parent, my kids told me like nothing. I kind of vaguely knew there was some sort of ambiance thing that they were using, but if I was like, what's going on in terms of college admissions, they'd be like, I don't want to talk about it, right? You know? And so my question is, just, is there, like, hearing you present this is fantastic. Is there any way we could do like a video and like share it on social media, or like, I'm already doing that and it's just not coming to me?
Well, no, I mean, in all fairness, there's a couple of things. So yes, we have a couple of presentations we do a year, like one of them is the application process at the counseling department, and we film it and it's up there on the website. That's one thing. The school links will help because you'll have a parent account with school links. So I can't talk about next year's class. They're going to be in Naviance. We can't help that, but school links will provide you with insight right into all that. So I'm not a school links person. This is an OSPI thing. I have nothing to do with it. It's actually Washington State thing.
Yeah, it's Washington State. Yeah,
That's OSPI.
it was a Senate bill.
So anyway, that'll help down the road. And then C, the parents who've been working on redesigning my website should have been really thinking about it like a parent. So hopefully I can come back, or I can send you a link and you can pop it up when it's live in a week or so. It'll be a little bit easier to look around.
And I will just say that the presentation that you did with the PTA for international families was fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
I think that should be available for all the parents who are going through this adventure and have not gone through the application process in a very long time. I heard that there were a few families that were not international families, but have done this when they were college students.
Yeah, it's hard to reach everyone, and you know, I do what I can, but I kind of feel like I'm just a paper Google. And the counseling department would say that a lot. We're just Google. Like someone comes in and asks a question, and we don't necessarily have the answer, but then we find it because it's hard for everyone to slow down and look. And so I guess that's part of my job, is to help do that. And then I'm looking at the connections. So another way I get information to disseminate to everybody is to go and meet with these people that hire or bring our kids into schools. And so I'm highlighting this. So in literally a 2-day period, I went to breakfast with these folks. And then the next day I took my career adventure van to Seattle Central College, which was so awesome as well. So if you go and you listen and you talk, I love that I get to do that. And I try to bring it back and have one-on-ones with kids and go there. Yeah.
One of the things though, I think in my conversations with you, Christy, that you say like people are looking for like, what's the special sauce? Like what's the matrix? What's the checklist? What's the thing I need to do to get to where I want to go? And I think one of the things that you keep saying is, I am talking to the people in the places that our kids are saying they want to go. And they're not telling me to hit this class. They're not telling me about an X number of APs. They're telling me to be kind. They're telling me our kids need to have passions. They need to be authentic. And so I just think there are so many resources that are linked here for people to explore. You know, people ask all the time about AP tests and grades and GPAs. And, you know, I just think the way that you've captured and that you're gathering information and from resources is really important. So I would just continue to encourage people to dig into research, because so much information is readily available through you and with you. Things like financial aid week. It's not a particular week. It's just a day. It's a series of days that Christy put together. This is posted around. You'll see in a minute some slides. But she put together these videos and resources for students, for families, and just take one day each day take a topic and dig in. And so I can't.
And it was sent out through Messenger.
Yeah.
Look at Ava's.
Oh,
sorry, Ava. Yeah, like I feel like all the resources have just like, it's grown so much, like from when I started in high school as well. And I think it's just like bringing like the private, like people are always like, oh, more surrounded, like people are going to private school. This is like the private school level like resource that we're getting, and like Miss Kenny like chasing students and like sometimes it feels like that, but like it's so important because like I think you can get resources anywhere, right? But like having the person there in front of you, like to make people feel more comfortable to reach out, is also so important. So I really appreciate that. And like, I feel like me personally even, I feel like I wasn't always like good at like utilizing the resources out there, but then like Miss Kenny being out there to help like reach out to students first and like being in front of their faces and like, like that's so helpful. And like, I also think like parents, especially with like the mock application cycle thing, parents like love it. And I feel like doing more of those like in-person events are super important because like people aren't always going to want to do their like digital homework, right? Like people get lazy at home, like say, but yeah, I think like everything has like allowed for more equity, more access, and like people don't need to hire like private counselors anymore, right? Like I feel like that will be a trend as we move forward as well, because like there's so many great things in resources at the high school. So yeah, thank you.
I hate her. So I just wanted to say, I would echo Amy, but she said it very articulately. As someone who was, peripherally involved with high school, like seeing things from here to then being a parent of a kid going through it to now having a kid out of it. The change, I just wanted to actually thank Superintendent Rendell for guiding this vision of, many of us saying like, where are the resources? We've got people paying $10,000 for college counselors. And if we just took out like a minuscule amount of that money and put it towards everybody, then we address all of those issues. And Christy, I mean, I could say you're amazing. The difference between, going in and helping me with the senior sweatshirts last year, I'm without you. And, but just to see what you've built in just the 2 years, and knowing that, just to address Maggie Ty's question in terms of, different students need different things. And because of your teaching background and your mom background, I agree, you're able to meet the needs of the students. Like I needed to, say, here, I'll sign you up for this, you go do it. And you just report back to me what you want to report back. And I knew like, Joey would come to me with questions, go talk to Christy, go talk to Ms. Kenyon, she can answer, she'll guide you in the right direction. And lo and behold, the end result was good. So, and then there's kids who don't want any, parents involved completely or not at all. And then like, there's kids who don't even tell their parents where they're applying, but Christy knows. And so, I just think that I could not agree more. This was such a gap. And then for Fred and the high school team to create your position and to really move it forward in all the growing that you're doing, you clearly hired the right person for it, understanding this community and having gone through it yourself. It's really, this is phenomenal. I haven't looked at this in a while because I haven't needed to, but I grew up here. I went through the whole college process. I had a college counselor. I don't think it did me a great service. Like I don't think that guidance was the best. And even having gone through this and talking to Christina a lot about international families and really having the unknown, the whole different world. And so then what we all went through as high school kids in terms of applying to school. So, anyways, this is tremendous work. I'm really, really proud of this and all of your hard work, and thank you. And, the kids I know are aware of it, and we just need to make sure that more and more families are aware so they can encourage their kids to take advantage.
Yeah, I'm open to suggestions as to how to connect the dots better, because I don't know that I have that answer. So
it's I tell people, and now it's even less so. I always tell people, read the counseling newsletters because of all the information you need. But I think that this is even more relevant than, so anyways, it's hard to feel like you spoon feed it. I don't.
Yeah, because PTSA now sends out announcements.
Right.
It's Nick's newsletter. Counseling has stopped because it felt like to hold the news. So we now put everything into Nick's newsletter.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the website will be a little bit more accessible.
Yeah.
We can certainly help.
Great work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Since you're still up, or
yeah.
I
feel like I really appreciate how like pushed out it is. I know like recently you guys came into one of my classes and then we had a college like rep do a presentation about the personal statement, which was really great because like that just being pushed out to students, like students aren't really seeking it out necessarily, especially like going into the summer and stuff like that for juniors. So I really appreciate how much it's pushed out, like getting kids to the halls and stuff. And I feel like that's really helpful for a lot of students that might be more checked out on the process. Like obviously there's students with college counselors that have it all, but there's a good number of students that don't have that. And so really feeling like they have those supports when they might not be getting at home or like elsewhere, it's really great to have that. And they have those resources that are just so like pushed out to them. I think it's great. Like everyone knows about it.
That's really thoughtful, Lucy. I'm curious, what would your takeaway from your event? That was just yesterday or the day before, right?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting because it was like a college rep kind of presented about the personal statement. So you got a lot of really good information. And I feel like that information coming from the college representatives is different than the ones we hear from peers and stuff. So that's so
You're well-educated peers.
yeah. So it was really helpful to have that kind of clear, like much more realistic message around personal statements and stuff, and pushing it going into the summer and getting you starting to think about it so you don't procrastinate it also like the day before.
Yeah, a couple questions. Looking at other districts in the area, comparatively to their high school profiles, a few things like stood out. One, looking at Newport, is 20% of their graduates go on to 2-year colleges. That surprised me. Our district is 1.5%. So I'd be curious about comments of why, Jody earlier talked about different pathways, but at least for 2-year colleges, it seems fairly limited in our district, particularly when in comparison to Newport High School. So one is any thoughts on that? The second, looking at comparative schools, is Interlake High School. They in their high school profile state that 26% of their seniors last year went to UW Seattle campus, over 1/4 or 100 students. So a very robust, strong pipeline to a great school, one of the best public universities in the country. How does our district compare? Is there any takeaways in terms of building a pipeline like Interlake High School?
Yeah, I don't know how to build a college pipeline. I don't know that that's part of my job, but I also wonder how many of our students got into UW and chose a different path versus that one option. The other thing is, as far as the careers go, I totally agree with you, and that's why I have the career adventure van, and we have visited. You could pull up that we visited 12 places this year to try to expose kids. So bringing kids in that may not be thinking about, that just don't know what they're doing or don't know what they want to do. And I've taken kids to all these places this year to try to expose them to more. So Newport has culinary on campus. What else do they have on campus?
Cisco, the computer certification, which is a direct feed into another school. Yeah, so they have a third, oh, they have the teacher ed. The teacher ed courses.
So, but we haven't had any conversations with Newport High School to understand better what those 20% of students look like, where they're going, even though they're just a couple miles away from us.
The only person that I have worked with regularly is Bellevue High, but Bellevue does have a whole, I know what's different is that Bellevue School District has a overarching person that runs a lot of and that includes Interlake, right? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's interesting because they have, me at different schools, and then they have overarching people, and you probably know more about that because I think they do CTE too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it would be a good conversation to have with that person of why their different schools do different things and where they're coming and going, because it sounds like you've got two schools in the same district that are doing very different things.
I think, a couple things around their schools, you kind of, you have IB, you have AP, and so there's some differences in terms of what they offer there. I know you also did a fair where you brought in, because I was there and went to a lot of the different booths, Rivian was there and that other component. I still don't hear, and Ava, Lucy, you could speak to it more, I don't hear a huge push from our students for 2 year, it's more for 4 years. In general, doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to push these opportunities, because I think sometimes maybe people just don't realize, wow, that would be a good option for me instead of the 4 year. For the UW component, when I'm talking to students more and more, I keep hearing people want to go out of state. And there seems to be a big push for not wanting to stay in state. And so it's not that they don't want to go to UW or it's UW is one option, but I'd rather go out of state. That we're seeing a lot more of that, I think, from.
Well, to echo Dr. Rendell, I think, Chrissy does a fabulous job, as does our counselors, to not focus on just one college. It's really student specific. What is the best college for you? So in terms of our kids going to college, I would lay our stats against anybody in the state. I mean, our kids are going to college, whether it's
This is Bellevue.
oh yeah, whether 2 or 4 years. But we don't send 26% to University of Washington. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we're sending our kids all over the world. And the stats on that is pretty impressive. So I think I don't think it's a negative on our side. And the same thing with the 2 to 4 year option. Again, Christy does a phenomenal job of explaining what's out there. At present, our population drives to a 4-year institution. That's a choice, and that's fine. And so she does a fabulous job laying out the options of what's out there for everything else. So I always worry about starting to compare too much on that. I mean, we're always looking, I steal great ideas all the time and work very closely with the Bellevue School District CT director, as well as all the area CT directors. And if somebody has a good idea, I'm taking it.
And just a reminder, in Bellevue, right, they're a multi-district school. And one of the things that Jen started with in talking about the 60+ courses that we offer and the 31 teachers is that we are a single comprehensive high school. And we still have courses and advanced courses in all 6 pathways. Like we don't have a magnet school. We don't have an AB or an IB or an AP program. We don't have a specific WANIC poll. We offer lots of things to our kids as a single district. So we have spent a lot of time talking about the college process that Christy facilitates, but that's one of a number of things, right? Like I just showed up on the screen a minute ago, the career van that she takes, the adventure van. She's also supporting students who want to take a gap year or want to study abroad or want connections to the military or are looking for jobs and internships. So there is a board outside of her office filled with things that kids can do, internships, jobs, volunteerism. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, but like all of these things Christy provides as a resource to students in this hub. So it is college and career in this career pathways hub.
I wanted to just chime in about UW, that a lot of our kids do get into UW, but they don't get into the specific major that they wanted to do. For example, like computer science is it's very restricted on that end of the pipeline or potential pipeline, right? So a lot of kids will apply to UW for computer science. They don't get in. They could still attend as just a general student, but it's very hard to get into like the engineering programs, computer science programs if you aren't accepted into them directly. And so our kids do so much and have learned so much that they typically have other options. And if they're able to take those other options, they can do it.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I mean, only from the rep that came yesterday and presented to our students, there's no evidence of that I could ask. I'm happy to ask that question. I'm happy to ask the Interlake College and Career Counselor to find out what that's all about. I'm happy to find that information. There's no problem with that. I do think that our students choose to go elsewhere as well.
And I think for some families, 2-year college is a financial decision because it's a lot cheaper to go to a 2-year program and then transfer to a 4-year school to finish a bachelor's degree.
And that number actually kind of surprises me. And I know that's 2023 stat because that's, this is we're behind 1 year in our profiles, but it surprises me because I know a lot of students who are choosing Bellevue College this year and have. So I think that number will grow a little bit, but yes, like you said, they do 4 years.
I think last year was an anomaly with UW too. That was a weird acceptance year, and I see many, many more going this year. So I think that was a blip.
Yeah. I also think like the demographic, like a lot of our families can't afford to pay for like out of state tuition or like things like that. So yeah, I think there is a shift. And like talking to a lot of students, like yes, most people do want to go to like 4-year colleges and like the technical like aspect going to a technical school is not as like wanted in terms of the student body needs. Yeah. So.
That's something to find out. We do have, I guess, if you could go back to the number 4 slide, there's a link at the bottom. So where it says jobs and internships, one of the things we're developing, or we have developed, but could be better, is this career resources. So this is linked all over the website. So under scholarships, and you can see all these things that are happening down here. So on the internships volunteer tab, a lot of things you saw on the summer board end up on here as well. So to make it more available to people outside, but that is labor intensive. So there's a better way to do it. Happy to hear about it. Yeah.
Great.
I'm getting back to the slide deck. This was from your, do you want to talk through them?
Oh, well, there's the case study, college fair, case study there in the top middle. Bottom right is a college fair that we held. That was last year's. I didn't get great pictures from Bellevue High because I was too busy. That was the Culinary Academy at Seattle Central on the top right. And then we have a student with the dummy, which was really creepy because it like talked and everything is like, are you getting my blood pressure? It's really interesting. And then a few on the bottom from our career/job internship fair. So just a lot of work goes into it. I have some wonderful support from the PTSA. I've been really grateful for that. Schools Foundation. So yeah, and then as things come up, I think about what else I can do. And so trying to get a hold of Lucy's class a lot earlier than I was able to get a hold of Ava's class. So I hit them all hard with English this week. We did the personal statement workshop. And of course, at the beginning, I said, hey, by the way, I'm here. Come talk to me. So I've opened up my calendar in June to anyone who wants to make a 30-minute appointment to kind of think about their summer. And they all have heard that directly from my mouth while I'm standing in front of them. So I'm not sure any other way to make them hear me. And then I added in this application planning workshop that I will do the week after school gets out. Oh, is that what I linked it to? That's what we've already seen. Here's a flyer. It's a flyer and it's linked on the website too, but they can come and it's free and it's open to everybody. So I just need to know how many people are coming, and then I have so much to tell them. I have so many resources to give them. And then what maybe I'll do is create some kind of thing that I can say, send this home to your parents.
Other things that we're looking ahead to for next year, as Chrissy mentioned earlier, and Jen touched on, is the school links implementation. So it's going to replace Naviance. The big benefit that's been sold to us is that there's a parent interactive piece. So parents can access it and see it, whereas with Naviance, it's strictly students. And that's where teachers upload letters of rec. So for school links, there's going to be more collaboration with families. It is for grades 7 through 12. It's starting next year. We chose to be an early adopter district. So we are transitioning this next year. As Christina mentioned, Director Martinez mentioned, the family's new to US or new to US schooling and that college process. We're going to continue to develop that and support families, and then developing an action item by grade level. So we know internally what needs to be happening. We have things that people go into different classes and counselors support things, and we send them out via Schoology about what needs to happen at each grade level, but making that more front facing for families and students to know, what should I be doing as a freshman if I'm thinking about college? What should I be doing as a sophomore, junior, et cetera? So those are forthcoming. Shifting gears a little bit, just to talk about some of the opportunities that we provide at MIHS for testing, and just to get an understanding of the sheer volume of testing that we do. We do offer the ASVAB. It kind of sunsetted for a few years. We didn't have students interested in it. We had a number of alternate grad pathways that students could pursue, but we found that there are a number of students who actually needed to take the ASVAB to pass, to be eligible for graduation. So it's one of the pathways that students can take. We do offer it several times a year. We have 3+ weeks of AP testing annually. We offer the PSAT in October. We've got the SBA. There's 4 days. We finished it today for SBA at the high school. Next week, we have a day of WCAS for all juniors. So there's lots of testing that happens at the high school, exclusive, outside of everything we do in classrooms. to just touch base on some numbers of tests administered for AP exams. We finished late testing tomorrow, and then we've got exception testing next week. In 2024, MIHS administered 203% more AP exams than we did 12 years prior. This year, we anticipate that we did 1,450 exams and had 544 students who tested. I think these are some impressive statistics. 91% of all students who tested received a score of 3 or higher. 64% of all exams taken last year scored a 4 or higher, and 29% received a score of a 5. More students are being recognized as AP scholars than in previous years. And 74% of all students who took the AP Calc AP test and 51% of all English Lit exam test takers scored a score of a 5. So our kids are doing well on the exams.
So one of the things I've noticed in school profiles is AP statistics are a commonly cited statistic. So going to the AP statistics, I mean, certainly it's helpful to see the historical, but I think the most relevant is the contemporary comparative question. And so Newport High School, I looked it up. There was approximately 2,700 tests taken, or almost double what our high school took.
Are they?
They're 4A, they're much bigger.
A little bit bigger, 300 more students. I mean, it's still appreciably bigger on a per student basis.
They also have some requirements.
They require all students to take an AP test or an AP course, and they provide what's called avid courses to support them. So it's a requirement that every kiddo in that school take at least one. That's not a requirement we've put on our students. We feel like they're provided with a lot of rigor and a lot of opportunities, and that's not something that we've thought about even pursuing. It's not a number we chase. We will provide what the students want and need. I will say one of the things in the slide deck from Christy earlier, let me pull it up here, was oh yeah, that in talking to these schools, so it was Duke, Georgetown, Harvard, Stanford, and Penn. So it was a breakfast with college admissions officers from each of these 5 schools. And the question was about AP testing. And the feedback was the schools want to see students take advantage of what's offered at their school, not what's offered comparatively, but what's offered at your school. And did you take advantage of that? They feel that AP testing should not be an extracurricular activity. Like, this isn't something that you do to be like, well, I am in 3 AP classes, but I'm going to take 6 AP exams. So outside of school, I'm going to study for these 3 exams that we don't have in my school. And that self-study is discouraged. So I just think it's important to keep perspective of what's out there. Just because Newport's doing something, I don't know that that's right for Mercer Island. And I don't know that that's going to meet the needs of, if we have students who want to attend prestigious schools, that's a need, something that they need to accomplish.
Well, I don't know if that's the answer either, but I know it's a question to ask.
Yeah, Ava.
Yeah, I think like they are good questions. And I think it's also like the student culture is like very different at different schools. Like at like Skyline High School, for example, I think they have like IB tests. I know a lot of people there, they describe the student culture to be very like I don't know, like people are like overworked and like take a lot more than what's needed. And I think as a senior, like going through the district, I consider myself like someone that took a lot of courses, really like maxed out the best I could. And I think like the district offers so many, like I was challenged every step of the way. And I think like as long as our district is providing that, like I don't think we need to push for like a culture shift to take more AP tests, for example. And especially like, for example, places like Lakeside, like if we're really trying to like compare like to private school, right? They don't have, their courses are all advanced and like students don't take AP tests there, but they have great outcomes. And I think like Mercer Island, like students don't have to take AP tests to prove that they're like learning, being challenged. Like all the breadth of experiences, like inside and outside the classroom, I think provide a more like more holistic development of the student. I think that's more important in making sure that it doesn't get too competitive. Because I think like, yes, we are protecting like how competitive our students are compared to other high schools in terms of like getting to college, getting into different jobs and careers. But I think we also have to protect like the culture, because ultimately people will not choose to go to a school where like everyone's depressed. So and I'm good at school where it's like where fun goes to die, but like yeah. So
They're gonna bring.
So in one of the earlier meetings this year, I think it was at a study session, there was a conversation about SAT, ACT, whether or not as a district or school, we should be offering it. There was an ask to go and seek input. And so the MIHS PAC, the juniors and seniors received a survey. We have Debbie Hansen, who's the assessment coordinator for all of our AP tests and SBA tests. We talked to technology services, learning services, and the college board. So we gathered information. Here is survey data. So these are from our students. So this is current 11th and 12th graders. 75% of respondents have already taken the SAT. Of all respondents, 20% of senior respondents had already taken the ACT. Almost 89% of juniors preferred that MISD offer the SAT over the ACT based on their pursuits in college and beyond. And almost 87% of juniors were definitely or likely to take the SAT or ACT if it were offered at the high school. Challenge is experienced by high school juniors. So almost 84% said finding a location near me was a challenge. I think we heard that anecdotally, people just saying like they're not easy to find. Part of that is the next response, which was 26% saying it's hard to navigate the College Board site. And when they release dates, they release them and you go and you try to grab them and you don't have any like geographical preference to where you get assigned. Like whatever is open is what's open and you try to grab a spot. 13% said, I don't know if I'm going to be applying to a school or pursuing something where I'm going to need one of these two tests. And then 13% said the cost of the test. Again, kind of coupled with not knowing if I need to take the test, do I want to spend the money?
Can I add on to that?
Yeah.
The majority of schools are still test optional or test blind.
Okay.
Test optional or test blind. And most of them are pretty committed to staying that way. That doesn't mean that the ones that you think about are not. They are test required, but just for perspective.
So 75%. So we asked then, okay, if you said that it's hard to find a location near you, if you said that many of our students had taken it or would take it, then what about Saturday versus school day SAT? Should we be pursuing this? 75% of juniors and a consensus among the MIHS PAC preferred a Saturday administration over a school day administration. And then it's important to note though, that Saturday administrations are open to all, no guarantee for our students. So for example, if we become a host site, we're not guaranteed any number of spots for our students. So we could launch it into the school board portal for students to reserve it. And if there are 300 spots for a given day, we might have 5 students from MIHS get in. And we might be filled with students from all over, and our students might be traveling to Bellingham. Like we don't get to say we'll host and therefore guarantee our kids an option. So the 75% comes with an asterisk to say, of course they would like that. That would be fantastic, but we can't do anything to guarantee that as an opportunity. We also worked with the business office and with technology to figure out what would the cost be to offer the different options. So the SAT, the ACT, a school day, and a Saturday administration. So I'll just let you look at that. Part of the difference, the drastic difference between school day and Saturday is that in the school day, that's our staff and our staff costs. The College Board pays very minimally for people to staff it on a Saturday. It's hard to get our own staff because they're not paid at their hourly rate. And this is just really our custodial costs because they pay the staffing piece.
When you say they,
College Board. So yeah.
Can you explain what the tech fee, or the tech fee is so high?
Yep, so, to do the Saturday ACT, based on the tech requirements, we, in talking to, it was Andrew Reeves, we would need to purchase additional laptops in order to be able to administer it. Yeah. Okay, thanks, sorry.
Actually, when you're done, I book this.
Yeah.
Are you done?
That part, yes. I was gonna go to the next slide.
Do you want to ask your question now?
Just a little bit about the inability to find a test. I think that, what might be extremely useful for our parent population is to sort of like really push out the idea of finding like a sweet spot of registering for tests. I know that, one of us was being a little bit, Virgo-ish in our tendencies to book our child's first SAT test. And booked so far in advance that we did not get a good spot. But they all opened up and all the type A parents booked. And he went to, Friday Harbor to take his first SAT. But then the second one, dates, as soon as the SAT is over, they basically email you and they're like, here's a lot more dates that we opened up. And he took this next one in like Seattle or Bellevue or somewhere very, very close. I don't quite remember. He grabs himself. Who knows what happens. And then so we registered the test May 3rd, and then May 12th, we got an email saying, lots of slots have opened up for the June test. So I think that they're being much more responsive to get tests into the hands of like students. I think that something that maybe our parent population isn't aware of is just that you cannot book. Like I couldn't decide now that Oliver wants to take the tests in June. Like it's too late. You need to book like a month ahead of time for those last minute seats, or maybe a few months ahead of time for your normal placement. And I think maybe a little bit more communication to our parent population of just how, and I know you're already doing so much communication, so tucked into that, but like just what the timing is to book tests, because I think a lot of the people that are like, oh, I can't find a test, maybe are looking a little bit too late in the process. And it's always very fertile to look, as right after a test date, because all those panicked kids who blew it are looking at other one.
That seems like a great thing to include in our like action items by grade level next
Yeah.
year, like when.
Yeah.
When to be looking.
Do we know what close by means? I mean, I know when I was in high school, going to downtown Seattle is not close by. I mean, in my head. So just do it. Did you say like a 10 mile, 10 mile, 20 mile?
No,
You just said close by. Okay.
I mean, I know, for instance, now, like 2 weeks out, there's nothing within 100-mile radius.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks out.
Okay, but I mean, if the idea is to make SAT accessible to everyone, including procrastinators and their parents.
Well,
then,
something is accessible to them. I mean, like,
And also,
I mean, to me, well,
we were offering it
to me, that's equity.
But
I mean, but I
also,
guess it means different things to
if
different
if
people.
we were offering it here, there probably wouldn't be any spots left
Well,
2 weeks out.
If it was a Saturday, but I don't think, like, my original proposal that I was censured over did not include an SAT date for that precise reason. I mean, it was to alleviate the problem, which was testing accessibility, which isn't solved by a Saturday
but
testing.
the vast majority of respondents do not want to.
Well, because they probably didn't realize that it didn't solve the problem that they want solved.
They don't want a school day test.
I mean, yeah, like in a vacuum, if they didn't realize that
Those
it's.
kids.
I think, yeah, I think a lot of
They
students
study.
kind of know where it is. I don't know who's you have.
I know a lot.
Yeah, sorry,
of students went very far for that.
I know I'm the current junior and I know it's a huge mixed bag. Like I know friends who have had to take it forward, but I also know tons of people who take it in Seattle at the Hyatt. Like I went there past March and like I feel like half my class was there, and that's just Seattle, like it's not very far. So it's a mixed bag, and I think the people who are taking it forward do book closer, and so I do really agree with that communication. You have to book far in advance, especially if we're doing Saturday administrations. And it is good to point out, like the vast majority of people take it more than once. I know I'm taking it 3 times, and that's not that uncommon to take it 2, 3, 4 times, just because you're not going to get your best score the first time. So even if we did offer it in a school day, we would have a lot of students who are still facing that problem. So it's a difficult choice because it's like, even if you do offer it in a school day, they will get one closed site, but that's just one closed site at one time. And depending on the timing, they might not have studied for that time. Like I know people who took it sophomore year, I know people who really studied a lot for it in the fall or really studied a lot for it in the spring. So it is a difficult choice in that scenario, or like, that it's not there's no one way to fully solve that problem in either way that we offer it.
Let's let them finish. the
Let's do
presentation.
challenges and conundrums,
Okay.
and then we'll open it up.
So, just, we don't have a definitive direction. Our students and families want testing on IMI and they want testing on Saturdays. We can't guarantee if we organize and offer a testing on a Saturday that our high school students will be able to test here or that it would benefit us in any way. So having dug in, seeing what else is out there, seeing what our kids, what our families are looking for, we don't know what, if any, additional steps you would like us to take specific to the SAT.
So it's a perfect segue. So me individually, to make clear, not speaking on behalf of the board, I believe at a bare minimum, we should offer the SAT in the school during the fall to seniors when we offer the PSAT. There's no disruption to scheduling. It guarantees seniors one last bite or first bite at the apple. And then we can talk about other dates where there would be minimal impact. But it seems to me that a fall test date for seniors is a total no-brainer.
I see lots of. Jody, I think I'm interested.
I think that, although I appreciate the passion Dan brought to this subject, I think that maybe we're trying to solve a problem that existed during the COVID years and immediately post-COVID. But I don't know that the problem exists to the extent that we need to be moving heaven and earth to provide testing on island. If during the school day will be, I think Dan may be misremembering or I might misremembering our presentation, but I think that because of space and staff constraints, it's hard to offer both those big tests on the same day. So it wouldn't be like, oh, we'll just throw another one onto the pile. With the testing, I think in our study session, we talked about that. As a parent of a junior who has also taken the SAT 3 times, probably in the same ballroom as SAT, I don't see a sustained issue with finding a faraway spot. You know, the 3 times we took one in a faraway spot and 2 quite close by. And it was very convenient. And 2 of those, or 1 of those at least, we scheduled, you know, not at the last minute because you're not going to be able to get a testing center. You couldn't go to Taylor Swift at the last minute either. Like, you know, these are popular tickets. But you could take a test and then be like, wow, I don't think I did very well. And then book another test and get Bellevue. And I think that's all we can ask of the system, that, you know, like with a month or 2 out, you can get a testing site. I think that a lot of people who like me have a child who was a child during COVID are like emotionally scarred from finding SAT tests during that period and are maybe projecting that it's a bigger problem than it currently is. If I didn't have a kid taking SATs now quite easily, I would be also just like flashing back to my older child's experience and being like, oh my God, the SATs were incredibly hard to get.
Okay, Christina, and then Deborah.
So for me, it's just a question and just clarifying. You said doing the SAT, yeah, what you said, the PSAT and the SAT the same day is not well correct in terms of facilities and staffing. Is that correct?
I believe so. When I have to ask Mr. Lucas, but I believe in the study session between he and Debbie, that it's based on the spacing, the setup of the rooms, the distancing, and the volume. I think that was the challenge.
And the technology.
And the technology.
And also the other question would be, like, when we're seeing these numbers, for me, it matters when we're talking about cost per test. Are we saying that this cost will go to the students or will be absorbed by the district? Because that's a totally different conversation. And that's probably not.
Are you talking about the slide with the four boxes?
Yes.
Those would be our expenses on our staffing. On the bottom, the College Board pays for the Saturday administration, like they pay the people. The $1,100 would be for our custodial staff.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the technology would be on us. The cost of the test
is incurred by the student, and then College Board uses that to pay the people who proctor on the Saturday administration.
And we are not even having the discussion that is paid by the district, correct?
Not at this time. That would be a whole new
And
budget item.
I know, yeah, I doing the math, like it's not a conversation that I would not even start this conversation if that was the case. So it was just a clarifying question. Okay, so only the ACT and the tech will be responsible for us, okay? Yeah, that was,
Thank you for all this information and all the work I know went into to get the answers to these questions. I think, my personal opinion at this point is that this is an operational question at this point in terms of the bandwidth of the high school staff to, and the administrative staff, to provide this service for students, knowing that if we do, that it takes away from other things. So, that's a choice I leave to the experts in the building, or I would leave to the experts in the building. One thing that kind of has burbled up for me is making sure that, there was a lot of talk of this interest in large part because of a board director bringing it to light. I just want to make sure that all students and parents have the opportunity to have their individual interests addressed. And that isn't just, loud voices and squeaky wheels. And I just mean this in general. I'm not slighting anybody, but everyone kind of has their thing of what's impactful for them. And my experience has been that staff has been really responsive to anything that I've brought. Personally, and I just want to make sure that there's avenues in place to make sure that these interests are addressed so that people don't suffer in silence. I think they are, but that's just kind of what's been bugging me. I think that if you're asking my opinion in terms of the solution, which you sort of are, which is the only reason I'm offering it, is I think the opportunity or the possibility of partnering with close districts who provide a school day SAT is the ideal solution. It would allow, like, if we could partner with Bellevue and, we either provide a little bit of staff or technology support or whatever, that seems like the win-win that provides for the needs of our students. Bellevue High School is just as close as driving to Mercer Island High School for a lot of kids. So, to me, that's a win-win without, I heard very loud and clear, and I think it was Nick the loudest at the study session, that we can't do it at the same time as the SATs, and because of all of the things that you guys have said. So that's a win-win. I don't, until College Board figures out that they need to give incentives to school districts who provide the SATs, which I don't know why they haven't, but they've moved a lot. They're finding more test sites, so maybe they're going to figure it out that they need, and that they start giving priority for geographical locations. It's ridiculous that kids in Tacoma are jogging up here and our kids are driving to Arlington. Like, that's absurd, but that's College Board needs to figure that out. And so I do just want to point out with SATs, I appreciate the test optional, test blind, and just making sure that everyone knows that merit scholarships that it is, having an SAT score is also a benefit with regards to merit scholarships. And so even if your school doesn't require it and you don't intend on submitting it for admission, that it does have benefits anyways. So that's just and don't take it 3 times.
Do you still have?
So, just a comment related to what you were saying. When we're talking about partnering with other school districts, is it during the school day? Would that mean that we have to provide transportation to those students?
Would have to be discussed.
That would all be worked out.
And if it's the cost of transporting them outside not having it in our district nowadays, so that's.
That would not be a astronomical cost, but we would factor all, just like custodial costs on a weekend, transportation costs during a school day, operation, we can talk about that.
Yeah, I do recall that Jerry mentioned Nick bringing up some, facilities concerns about space utilization, which seems a little bit peculiar, maybe just because an offhand remark. Our high school is only utilization rate is like 70%. Other high schools in the area I assume have higher utilization rates and less available space than we do at our high school and are able to offer it. So I just don't understand, and it wasn't articulated why it was a logistical concern. It seemed like an offhanded remark. And then in terms of the survey, like I do wonder if when parents responded, if they realized that when like a Saturday test day wouldn't be able to solve the problem that was clearly identified as the problem, which was securing a test site. You know,
So we didn't survey parents,
or well, if students realize, like, I mean, people are going to choose an option if they don't realize necessarily the drawbacks that come with that option.
I mean, most of the students, it is a good wondering, but a lot of the students were all juniors and seniors who I think already know how the Saturdays kind of work on that. So I don't know if that was new information. If it was freshmen, I think it would have been different, but I mean, we were really targeting juniors.
It only went to sophomore or to juniors and seniors.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to weigh in yet, so I'd like to weigh in and then I would really love to move on because we've got more meeting to meet. It's already pretty late. I really appreciate all the work you guys have done, the legwork, footwork, whatever, to kind of bring this information to us and been very helpful, especially to see the breakdown of costs. I actually agree with Deborah that possibly partnering with another district might make sense as like, it doesn't, nobody gets everything that they want in this situation. Like, we don't get like infinite SATs on tap, right? Like, the students don't get their Saturday SATs where they don't have to miss a day of classes, but you know, perhaps if we could at least look into that, it would be potentially like kind of, you know, could kill some of the birds that we want to kill, you know, kind of with one stone. So that's maybe something for the future, but it is 100% an operations decision. So I defer to, you know, superintendent and the staff.
And just another option is that also this could be, if depending on which way this application goes, to have it as well as a pilot, as the reality compared to like what we provided, but then how many students really register and like we did with the dyslexic, that is a pilot in elementary, and we are seeing that numbers make a difference. So maybe it was a reality check, and we might see that there's everybody signed up already. So yes.
Sure, they'll by preference in terms of the budget, maybe not pick a pilot option that causes us to have to buy a whole bunch of extra laptops.
Yeah. This has been helpful. I really appreciate just the conversation. I appreciate all of the just echo the sentiments. I think I got way too much credit in this for the work that really the three of you have all done, because we've talked about the Career Center in different ways. Should it be in the library? Who should do it? What should it look like? And to see where it is now is fantastic. So that's the end of our OE Tech report.
This is an action item, folks, because we have to say whether we're finding the superintendent is ensuring that the district's program of instruction achieves our board policies 0001 and 1800 OE1. And obviously you've probably gone through it already, like, basically, do we find the superintendent in compliance on this stuff, college and career readiness, and you know, instruction for a changing world. So
I move we find the superintendent compliance of OE10 instructional program.
Second. Okay, all in favor of finding the superintendent in compliance? Can't talk tonight. Superintendent in compliance. Please say aye, students. Aye. Board members.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining?
Abstaining.
Okay, so 2, 0, 4, yes, 1 abstention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay. That, and so now we've got,
Rest of recognition.
I'll
Yeah.
fold that into my report and we can go right into our financial.
Okay,
pieces.
Great.
Because we don't have any students.
It's easier to talk than nothing.
So under 4A, financial dashboard, we have our update here from Director Sullivan. So I will bring that up and turn it over to you, Mr. Sullivan.
I want to speak to the value of accounting classes because we think in the future. That said, provided to you is a financial dashboard through April, notes to financial, which I'll go off as I read to you some of the highlights of the report, and of course the budget status report through April. Working about 66.6% of the fiscal year or through the end of April. We see expenditures about 66.9%, so ever so slightly higher than the 66% measure, which means when we look at the budgets, myself or my business services team members, Director Adams, Assistant Director Garcia Faber, we kind of check that as a point and it looks like we're budgeting correctly and on track. Our revenues are at 65.9%. Of course, this is lower than the 66% measure. We look at this historically over the last couple of years, and yes, we receive a majority of our EP&O levy in April. We're seeing that about 800,000 to $1 million of that tax, that revenue comes in May. So we expect to see more money coming in the next week or so. Not quite sure, maybe it's late payments, etc., or how King County remits it to us from the Treasury, but that's what we noticed. So that's why it's a little bit lower. Some of the high points and expenditures month over month from March to April. We saw basic education. There was an increase to, first off, the annual second half payment of our insurance, the Washington Schools Risk Management Pool. That half payment is about $566,000. We usually pay first half in the fall. Second half, we get our tax revenue in the spring. And then we saw some larger invoices coming from our Running Start students, Seattle, Bellevue, and Cascadia colleges. They usually remit a month in the arrears. In this case, we saw 1 or 2 months in the arrears. Couldn't tell you why, but that's how they billed us. On the revenue side, once again, we saw the increase there is easily, that's the EP&O levy coming in. Federal grants, we saw a decrease to lower receipt of federal reimbursables. Those are always reimbursed in the arrears. And sometimes we see them coming in within 30 days. Sometimes we see them coming in 60 days. And then we saw a negative, and as transparency, we do make mistakes. We had miscoded a revenue in the other category, which needed to be in the state or in regard to state basic education. So we made that, correct that statement, but it also shows up on the budget status report. So we wanted to report that. And then lastly, we're seeing healthier as we notice the month fund balance cash on hand. We remain in the positive with our fund balances. We're about $2 million at the end of the month, which is good. This is a positive increase year over year to the tune of almost $250,000. This is good for the fund balance. So we're seeing a healthier trend as we go year over year over year. We still anticipate at this point, of course, we won't know until probably early September, end of September, where we'll end the year with our fund balance. We anticipate still about 3.6 million or about 4.5%.
Questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Director Sullivan.
Thank you.
Let's start. We have got the riff, yeah.
Yep. So under 4B, a couple of things that I want to note as this comes to you for a second reading. We had a rather significant change in what we had originally thought for the LPNs and the RN reductions. And so that has been reduced on both of those. That's the product, and I want to thank the team that worked with us, both from MIEA, our nurses, administrators, myself, all working together to try to figure out what is going to be the best plan that will still maintain the level of services that we want for our students while also being able to make some reductions. The largest reduction would be essentially the equivalent of about 1 RN and then some hours on LPN that you'll see there. So I still don't anticipate that we're going to need that full authority. It's there to make sure that we don't violate anything, but even that is gonna likely not come to fruition. So what's on there is more than we thought. And then I would also say that the paraprofessional classified component or categories, we are having conversations around enhancing those. We're having a lot of great success. And I think both of these are impacted by that, along with our certificated, with our schools foundation, with the work that we've done this year with the budget. And so I anticipate that's going to be a lot lower too. But we left that in there not to change that at this time. But I think overall, I'm going to ask Director Battersby just to kind of talk overall to both RIFs in terms of we have to ask for the authority. We have to make sure we don't do something wrong, but we've been able to really dodge a lot of the actual risks because of other attrition. So Director Battersby.
Yeah, as Superintendent Rundle shared, there's been an upward adjustment or restoration, kind of better term, from our original plan. It was presented 3 weeks ago now. So we have shifted from what we were initially anticipated and enhanced it to it's only going to be a 0.73 reduction in nursing positions. So that's where you see the change. The paraeducator reduction of 1.5 FTE remains the same. As Superintendent Rundle emphasized, this is capacity as opposed to what we hope to use, similar to our certificated RIF resolution. What that equates to, just so we understand, is the LPN license practical nurses, I believe what it stands for, at 0.47 FTE. That's about 5 hours a day across the elementaries. And then for RN hours, it's about 9 hours a day. So this would mean that we could potentially have some nursing support at all schools. I don't know how it ultimately shakes out, or at least some of the schools. Our initial proposal would have resulted in essentially 1 7.5-hour FTE at one school, and that would have been a combination of RN and LPN. So this is a change from that. Typically refer to classified in hours, but since we're used to talking FTE, because we've done a lot of discussion about certificate, which we report in FTE, I sort of try to give it to everyone in terms of both hours and the FTE.
So the kind of the model is we do anticipate bringing on a
health room assistant
HRA, but maintaining then nurse coverage in all the other schools and being able to support. So I think it's going to be a great model for us, responsive to our students. And I remind everyone that if student needs are different next year, we might be hiring additional, or we could be going a different direction. And we're really going to be staffing to our students, not just to our buildings. So that's kind of the report.
Thank you for that and for all the work and discussion that went into that.
I just said something. I really appreciate that you're mentioning that you're staffing according to students and not building, because I know that it is tough with what is allocated from the state in terms of the percentage that they will fund us for nurses. So I know that it has been a challenge, and to ensure that the safety of all the students will be taken care of. So I'm at ease after all this and the different conversations that I had on that every single student will be looked after. So yes, appreciate all the effort.
If there's no,
I just want, I just agree. I mean, by putting together this work group and hearing the voices of, I mean, I know you always do, but really truly in this one issue, hearing the voices of all of the people who are in the trenches doing it every day, that says a lot about leadership and being able to, you know, it demonstrates that their work is valued.
thank you. Do I have a motion to?
I move that we adopt resolution 740, the reduced education program.
Second. All in favor of adopting the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Board members?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that is 2-0-4-1 with one opposed.
Okay.
board policy 1003 for job description. This is, board policy and procedure 4300, limiting immigration enforcement in schools. This is now a second reading.
And this one is no change to your policy. We did update the procedure, so we don't need action on this, but we wanted to make sure that the procedure reflected what we discussed, and that was really trying not to be so precise about the visas, but being much more inclusive, and so including the link and taking out language that called out specific visas per your discussion. So really looking to make sure that this captured what was discussed at the board table and that our procedure reflects our policy.
I think it looks very clear. You guys who worked on it, what do you think?
I do like it. I think I will not modify anything. I will just say that it will absolutely benefit later on and if it's like a flow chart for staff to really actually really quick and know what the steps are. So it's easy instead of just so much, but it's just a recommendation for kind of again, so yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I think it makes our position clear on an important matter. So I'm happy that we moved expeditiously and boldly on this.
Is there a motion?
Don't need a motion to call it, or it's procedural only. So as long as the procedure is reflecting what is in your board policy, then we'll post and move forward.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Thank you. Okay, and now, for the proposed revisions to administrative procedure 1250 students on governing boards procedure. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, so we did two things. When we wanted to just clarify about school board related absences being excused, just as a clarification for anyone who's looking at that. So that's the first two bullet points that we edited. And then the second one, we kind of felt like it would be important for student representatives in the future just to have some very basic, obviously, guidelines about like how to use the social media account in the future, just to make sure that like students are directly being told to, you know, be professional and respectful. And then felt like the political campaigning was important, as that is like a level of a part of, you know, your role. You're not supposed to politically campaign as the school board representative. So just clarifying that for future board reps in case that hasn't, you know, directly come up like it did with the bond, but if there's something in the future. And then the reflecting consistency with designated district communication channels, just to make sure we're staying in line with all of that. We borrowed these from the policy that you guys had created on the social media. So we just felt like these were the ones that kind of gave the best guidance for students in the future.
And we didn't want to make it too like specific because we still wanted the students to have like freedom of, like, since they're technically not a voting member as well, like having more freedoms as to what kind of things they post as well. So
yeah, that's great. Anybody? Thoughts? Okay.
This is procedure only too, so.
All right.
Good job.
Efficient.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
I guess, thank you. That's your legacy, Ava.
For all day long. That's it. Okay. Next up, we have the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Students? Aye. Board members?
Aye.
That is 2050. And now we've got superintendent report and announcements and recognitions.
Yep, just a couple of reminders about an important holiday we have coming up on Monday. While it is a day off of school and a lot of different entities are shut down, it's an important time to really remember the service people who have served our country. So Memorial Day, I think, is important for Military Appreciation Month. And then coming up in June, something that members of our community, particularly in our PTA, who have and continue to advocate against gun violence and really advocating for gun storage. So we have Gun Storage Check Week coming up in June. That's June 1st through the 7th. And then Gun Violence Awareness Month and National Gun Violence Awareness Day with wearing orange is June 7th. So that will be coming up early before our next board meeting. So I did want to mention that. And just also remind the board that a board before you passed Resolution 665, which was school safety and prevention of gun violence. So just some work that this board over time has done, and then members of our community that I think is worth pointing out. As far as announcements that I have, just a couple of things. First off, because the governor did not sign the budget until the very end, we don't have the information back from the state yet as to what those implications will be. And so we will not be in a position to have the same conversation that we had hoped on the 29th, which is next Thursday, to do the full board budget overview. We have rough estimates. I think they're pretty close, but I know that Director Sullivan does not want to bring something forward that doesn't reflect actual. So we are going to go to Plan B, which is we'll use the June 11th meeting to do the walkthrough. We'll use the June 16th for the resolution first reading, and then we'll do the June 26th adoption and budget hearing, if that's all right with the board, rather than the 29th. So it's just shifting it.
Yeah. Does that mean it'll be shorter?
What's that?
Does that mean the study session will be shorter?
It does have that potential. Things are looking up for that.
I will be online.
Great.
My question will be, is that enough time for you to get on June 11th to where you have to go after?
Yes, yes.
That's all good.
Thank you. So that brings us to our agenda then for next Thursday. The bond discussion is certainly on there. A survey update from us on what we've learned from different entities who can help us with that. Updates and some information on non-voted debt, and then costs to run a bond. I wanted to just ask you briefly, and if you're not sure right now or you think about it, what other information do you want, or what will be helpful for you to have your conversation or for us to engage next Thursday regarding bond?
I've heard that construction costs have gone down significantly. So I would be interested to hear briefly if that would impact what that impact would have on us if we made a decision to do something sooner rather than later.
I could be interested in sort of like a little walkthrough of the levy schedule and how that fits into anything. And just, what's next?
And then just to add on to that with the levy is, it's a renewal, but assuming we have do we have a greater capacity? I haven't even heard. Did that pass?
It did,
Okay.
and I'm sure that Director Martinez will add that. We don't have capacity now, but for our future, levy vote,
Right, in February.
it could be asked.
Right, so with the levy information, rough estimate of an increase, what, if that would increase our rate, if we ask for the limit, and
It's just EP&O, and cap tech is all that matters for construction. I mean, EP&O is what's expiring.
Correct.
Right, but wanting to know,
right, because if it's $500 more per student, typically it's a renewal and it's not gonna have a huge rate change, but with the increase.
No,
how much?
I understand, we're just not gonna build anything.
That's not the question.
I was just wondering like what the schedule is and what's
Yes.
So what we were thinking on that is at your study session, in addition to the bond pieces, is having a cap tech levy update, just what projects are on the horizon for this summer. In September, you get the kind of the full rundown of everything we accomplished and there. So Director Sullivan does want to bring you an update on the cap tech levy piece as well. We were thinking sorry, go ahead.
let him finish.
We were thinking to have a deeper conversation around the EP&O levy at your June 16th study session, where we talk about the timeline, implications of House Bill 2049, what those changes would be. So we'll bring a timeline of when the levies expire and all of that, because I think it'll be useful for that. But we were thinking that for June 16th to do more of the EP&O, but that was our best thing.
Yeah, I think it would be good to get a brief overview of non-voted debt, both for an emergency situation, whether it's HVAC and doing something similar to what the city did with critical water infrastructure, or if there was an appetite for a future board for going closer to the limit, which would be approximately $100 million.
And you did say that you
Yep.
were gonna cover that.
That'll be one. So it'll be survey, non-voted debt, and the cost to run a bond. Then I've added construction costs and a levy schedule, or like an election schedule that you'd like to see from that too. So,
And Director Sullivan will give us the 101 version of what that is.
oh, for sure.
You'll give us like the 101 version of what that is, right?
Yes.
And then, sorry, I think you already have this on there, what the options are in terms of breaking up into multiple bonds. Like, if any, like, could we divide it in half? Could we run like 20 bonds? Like, what's the overhead involved in each separate process, just to know, again, what the options would be.
Great.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, can I
Yep.
just say something? I know that it's in Word doc somewhere, but if we can also have some of the, bring back a little bit of what the community, what was the planning committee?
Facilities.
Yes,
Mhm.
just to see where they were, but we keep thinking about the future, or we're not, just to have it on hand.
No problem. Got it. So then the 16th, we would talk more. You heard Andrews talk a little bit about a parent communication tool and wanting to do some changes. So we're going to have some more definitive, I think, decisions made by then. I would also like to talk about then the EP&O levy at the June 16th update as well. And with that, that will conclude my update.
Thank you. Ledger report. Christina and Jody.
I think that the news is that, the budget has been signed by the governor, so it was, what was, I forgot to make the numbers, so sorry, the 2040.
House Bill 2049.
House Bill, it passed, so that we will be having, increase in the levy that we can collect, $500 per student. There was no changes there. And, has been a lot of, bills and tax increases through kind of what the governor did signing the budget. So, it will be very interesting to see how it will affect our budget. I think there's very, very little increase in certain things, but there's, I don't know, and I did mention this, for example, the 6 cent per gallon increase in gas, but then we didn't have anything related to transportation. So it might not seem a lot, but then when we run school buses or things like that, it might add a little bit. So it's just not significant, but then if we add, we have to see kind of study, and I guess that is part of what Matt is going to do to reading what that means, and also the other laws that he's signing right now. Like there's a bunch. So I'm trying to see if there was something else mentioned. That's pretty much. It was, and the only thing that Governor Ferguson veto was the capital for small school construction, which was a benefit for small school districts, but it does not apply to us anyway. So that was the only veto that he had in his budget. So, so I think that the next step is there will be meetings later on to kind of see what will the next strategy will be for next year and the following year. I think that we have to think ahead, and June 11th will be when we will cause the transition as for ledge reps here, and that's pretty much that is. Yes.
So I have it on my calendar that at one of the upcoming meetings in June is when we change lit reps for the year because of June 11th, right?
Yes.
So we haven't really thought through, I think, what happens when we have two board members like not returning for the next term. And so are you thinking you'll do like just a 6-month?
Well, what I'm thinking is that I'm still whole year.
Yeah.
Right? So even if Dan or Deborah will be, my whole, they're getting all the deals, so they have done it, so it will be easy year maybe for me.
Right, okay,
So those, after those 6 months, then I have 6 months to help the other board member.
There's still transition period. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So that is why we chose June.
Okay, that's really smart, actually.
I will only say that the advantage, and this will be important for, I think that the General Assembly, will be, I think September 20th, I have it here in my notes. I might not be I cannot be the voting delegate because I am part of the resolution committee. So that being said, I will be there, but then we need, well, to talk things. So otherwise it couldn't be, yeah, but I can be, voting, I don't know, for other legislation priorities things, I could be part of it, but it was the only limitation that I had, so, but it's will be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, then board announcements, confirms and reports. I'm going first, which I know will be good. Just because I forget, we need to schedule an executive session to discuss the review and discuss the superintendent's performance. It's like that mid-year review thing. And I know everyone's really busy this time of year, but I think it would be easier to just right now live pick like a time frame that everyone is free in sometime in the next week or two.
I'm not available next week.
You're not available next week. It has to be done by, and I will tell you, it has to be done by Sunday.
We Zoom, or,
Oh, we can totally Zoom. Let's Zoom.
You can.
Great idea. Yes.
I mean, I'm not gonna.
I really don't.
No, you don't have to be available.
Not available.
No. I know, but even in general, yeah. So we have to, it has to be done, give me a few days before the 26th, the June 26th board meeting. So sometime between now and like June 20th. So that first week.
You could, if you are all available on this June 16th before the study session, you could do it then. It is a long day because we have our study session, which goes into a short dinner, and then we get on the bus to head to graduation. So that is a long day.
No,
But-
I'm not adding a minute to that. Thank you for the suggestion, but personally, my brain will just.
We have a meeting on the 12th, right?
11.
11. We do.
You could do before that meeting or
Why don't we do it
after that
after?
meeting.
Why don't we do it after? Because I have something in the morning and my timing will be a little tight getting to the clock, so let's do it at 4 o'clock. Okay?
At 4,
Is that okay?
Or on Wednesday, the
No, because,
11.
oh, no.
He-
No, so we have our, we moved the.
Yeah,
board meeting to-
12 to, but it is 4, and you want to do it right after, right?
Yeah, right,
It's 1 to 4, but it's 1 until whenever we finish.
1 until we finish. So like, we'll just do the meeting after.
And, yeah, my question will be, can it be before or not?
No, it's maybe 10 with the morning.
So
I mean,
just saying, I have, in theory, I was hoping that May was going to be short because the West Mercer pack is that day. And we're booked 3 to 4, but I don't know if I will.
It wouldn't be
able to
okay.
go there anyway.
if it's Zoom, I could start at noon.
I can't start.
Well,
You
it's,
cannot.
our meeting's in person.
But, no, I know, but I'm saying
Yeah.
like, my thing is I'm in Issaquah and I'm gonna have to get back by noon in person, but I could do it. The car, like sitting in a parking lot, you know.
I would be actively driving. I don't think.
No, that's not good.
Your,
So you
let me
can't do
look
it
at
after
that meeting.
because of the West Mercer pack?
I was hoping that if we were done early, I could actually attend to the
Yeah.
pack. And I think I feel a little bit.
Do people want to just pick a different day entirely, like Thursday, the 19th? Oh, no, I'm traveling.
Sorry, the week of the first week.
Sorry, staff tour.
In theory, that June 11th meeting is, we will have the budget, the page by page budget. You've seen a lot of it already. But that, I mean, when I look at what we have kind of scheduled, you have your reorg for your ledge reps, and then we have the page by page budget. We do have some students who may or may not be coming for some recognitions. And that is about it for that agenda. So that is not a long meeting. So what time is the PAC meeting?
3.
3. That's gonna be tight.
So can we just do it on a day, or how about Friday the 13th? Are people available? Was that lucky? Could we, I mean,
Can we send you dates instead of this?
I mean, it's just a lot easier to do it.
Is it, are you really not able to miss the Westminster Pack?
That's the
Well,
last one.
It's the last one, and I did promise that I was going to go to talk about some things.
Okay, Monday, June 9th, Friday, June 13th. I'm free all day.
I'm free both days.
I can do both.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, you said which one?
Monday, June 9th or Friday, June 13th? Yes?
Yeah.
Dan? Both of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Should we just do the 9th?
Sure.
Let's do the 9th. What time? 10 a.m.?
Sure.
Is that a good one?
Online.
Online. Okay, 10 a.m. Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, my other report is that I attended the PTA the committee formerly known as the PTA DEI committee, which has now chosen its new name in a series of like evening meetings that I did not take part in. And the new name is Belonging and Voice. And that's the new name. And may have a little bit of a new focus as well. We did also, the committee did a first half of a 2-part training. Like these 2 trainers came in to specifically train us in sort of belonging and voice as concepts. And it was actually really excellent. Like I was like, I know all this stuff. And I was like, wait, what does that word mean? Like, it was actually very educational. So there's a part 2, and then there's one that I think everyone from all the PTA officers are able to take part in. It's like it kind of combines part 1 and part 2 that the E&B committee has been doing. So anyway, if anyone wants to know more about it, I'm happy to chat about it. That's it for me.
I had various assembly meetings, spent, was again, the board rep on the interview thing for the student rep, which is really good thing. It was just to go through, very ably run by Ava Musi, I will say. I went to the Northwood PAC, meeting where they went through, just want to like do a push again for everyone to respond to the ES survey, because the deep dive that our educators and our administrators do in it is really amazing. Like, that we went through it question by question, and we're talking about like really breaking it down. Like, what does this mean to you? What do we learn more? Like, like what's the import of this question? And I think that, obviously the better return on the survey, the better. So just like, this is my personal plea, like to our parent and student community to fill those surveys out. And the other big news from Northwood, and this is not a secret, so I can tell you, is that there's a little bit of a lice situation going on, which she told us after we were seated for the meeting, and then everyone was like, and apparently that's not a big deal like it used to be, and they don't panic like they used to when in our day, but plenty of us had residual panic anyway.
That's it for me. Thank you. Yeah.
I had a Island Park pack. We also talked about EES data. Very brief. That's it.
I had the PTA advocacy committee, and they chosen already their priorities for next coming year. They did talk still about the e-bikes and what they're gonna. So that's an ongoing conversation on how that's going to happen, but pretty much that was it. And the other thing that I attended there was a PTA award ceremony, and congratulations, Fred, for the award.
Yes.
The same with, the educators, I was very proud to see who, for Jen and Ms. Ham there. But, it was always, good to hear, that, and the last thing that I forgot, it is kind of pleasure, but it's not, today I went to the WAS, resolution committee, and one of the things that we had to go through was we reviewed 20% of the positions. And what they mentioned is that as board, which that we should be reviewing our policies and percentage here and there to see what we should retire and what should we update. And I'm curious if we have done that exercise, and if not, if we should incorporate that to be able to see what is obsolete, that we have to start taking that out of our things, or is it not? But it is that they are the rule of 20% per year, so something like that. So thinking about maybe moving towards that to just clean up whatever we have in our work policies, or just maybe thought about, but yeah, as an exercise. Or at least update if we also need to update some of them that we may not be tired, but might update them. So it was just.
Thank you.
That's it.
Deborah? I attended the middle school PAC meeting where we discussed the EES survey as well. And we did it was 2 weeks ago. I can't really remember, and Aaron wasn't there. We did a little bit of an exercise on it, and it was really, it was a good way to look at it. I just honestly can't remember the details of it, but so that was good. PTA, I attended a PTA council meeting that was good as well. Lots of announcements, end of the year stuff, as well as the PTA council awards, which is a great event to recognize the movers and shakers and doers in our community. So it's always a privilege to get to go and see people recognized for that. I just want to comment without really talking about anything. I'm Jewish. I'm proud to be Jewish. I can tell you when I talk to my other Jewish friends that say I'm talking to 4 people, we have 6 to 8 different opinions on Judaism, Israel, Zionism, definition of anti-Semitism. I think to make blanket statements is dangerous. I think it's divisive. We have community members who are trying to divide rather than unite. And I'm not commenting intentionally on any of my personal views, because my personal views are irrelevant, as are what I believe everyone else on this board's personal views and what they do in their privacy of their own lives. I think what's relevant and how we should be judged is how we behave and act at the board and on behalf of our students. We have different rules than our school staff as elected officials, and those that are stirring things know the answers. And it's unfortunate that there's a lot of noise without a lot of substance behind it. I would encourage people, if they have an issue with someone or something, to reach out to that person. I know that hasn't happened. Have conversations. We're a small community and we have great opportunities to forge relationships and improve things and get the answers to questions when we have concerns. And I appreciate that this board has frankly taken the high road in terms of looking at our ability to govern. I think things have been going really well. Our ability to govern and actually focus on students and make decisions as such, and hope that we can continue to do that. And that we utilize our students to pass that message on to their fellow students as well in whatever way they think is appropriate or not. And not get bullied into doing things that are beyond the scope of what we were elected to do.
Thank you for that.
Sorry,
Right, yes.
2 quick things. One is we received our first request for a facility name. I have these. If you want your own copy, we have them. If you want to wait until the study session, I think we're going to bring this up at a study session. I need to schedule it with board president, vice president, either the 29th or the 16th. But if you'd like your own copy that was provided to us, we have that for you tonight. Otherwise, I can give it to you later. And then it's also next week, just a reminder, you're all invited to our staff recognition event, 4 o'clock at Northwood on Wednesday, the 28th. So we'll do our retirees, our years of service, and our staff members of the year.
I'm so sorry that I cannot.
Sure.
Smack it.
No
That
problem.
one
You're
is
all
not
right.
about,
All right, you're all right.
I'll do that.
So
Yeah.
that's,
Thank you.
sorry, thank you.
And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Motion, need a motion.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I like the
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please say hi, students. Board members.
Aye.
Okay, now we are adjourned.
That is that. What? Is that one? Sorry. Letters from